As well. There we go. There we go. We are at the finale of reading Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I am excited and also dreading it because we have some very, very thick paragraphs, which, with my stupid brain, I'll probably get lost in. I don't know where I am right now. This is not the finale. We have gotten through all this, and I believe we are at the last night. How fitting. Actually, literally how fitting. It is the last night we're reading this, and we're starting with the last night. Well, this doesn't look too bad at all, actually. It's a little longer than the other chapters. Did I miss the chapter break? I guess I didn't. This will, for VOD watchers on YouTube, sadly, I don't think I can do this on Twitch. Actually, no, I can. There's a description on Twitch. Provided the description works like on YouTube, I'll try to put timestamps in to both for anyone catching this later. If you are seeing this for the first time, there are the first two parts. Yeah, the first two parts are already up on YouTube, archived, and they are chaptered. So if you don't want to watch the gameplay during the intermissions or listen to that, you just want the pure audio text of the reading, you can just skip to them. Simple as. If I can't put the timestamps in on Twitch, you're gonna have to go to YouTube for the timestamps. I apologize for that. I have not been using Twitch for very long, so I'm hoping I can put the timestamps in. Okay. Now, let us begin on the last night. Well, I think it's chapter 7, but it could be chapter 8, so we'll just say chapter last night. Damn it. Well, I wanted to do something before I started reading, but one moment. Let me do one little thing before I read. Okay. Mr. Utterson was sitting by his fireside on the evening after dinner when he was surprised to receive a visit from Poole. "Bless me, Poole, what brings you here?" he cried, and then taking a second to look at him. "What ails you?" he added. "Is the doctor ill?" Mr. Utterson, said the man. "There is something wrong." "Take a seat. And here's a glass of wine for you," said the lawyer. "Now, take your time. Tell me plainly what you want." "You know the doctor's ways, sir," replied Poole, "and how he shuts himself up. Well, he's shut again in the cabinet, and I don't like it, sir. I wish I may die if I like it. Mr. Utterson, sir, I'm afraid." "Now, my good man," said the lawyer, "be explicit. What are you afraid of?" "I've been afraid for about a week," returned Poole, doggedly disregarding the question. "And I cannot bear it no more. And I can bear it no more." The man's appearance amply bore out his words. His manner was altered for the worse, and except for the moment when he had first announced his terror, he had not looked the lawyer in the face. Even now, he sat with the glass of wine untasted on his knee, and his eyes directed to the corner of the floor. "I can bear it no more," he repeated. "Come," said the lawyer. "I see you have some good reason, Poole. I see there's something seriously amiss. Try to tell me what it is." "I think there's been foul play," said Poole hoarsely. "Foul play? cried the lawyer, a good deal frightened, and rather inclined to be irritated in consequence. What foul play? What does the man mean? I daren't say, sir, and was the answer. But will you come along with me and see for yourself? Mr. Utterson only answer, Mr. Utterson's only answer was to rise and get his hat and greatcoat, but he observed with wonder the greatness of the relief that appeared upon the butler's face, and perhaps with no less that the wine was still untasted when he set it down to follow. Excuse me. It was a wild, cold, seasonable night of March, with a pale moon lying on her back as though the wind had tilted her, and flying rack of the most diaphanous and lawny texture. The wind made talking difficult and flecked the blood into the face. It seemed to have swept the streets unusually bare of passengers besides, for Mr. Utterson thought he had never seen that part of London so deserted. He could have wished it otherwise. Never in his life had he been so conscious of so sharp a wish to see and touch his fellow creatures. For struggle as he might, there was born in his mind a crushing anticipation of calamity. The square, when they got there, was full of wind and dust, and the thin trees in the garden were lashing themselves along the railing. Poole, who had kept all the way a pace or two ahead, now pulled up in the middle of the pavement, and in spite of the biting weather, took off his hat and mopped his brow with a red pocket handkerchief. But for all the hurry of his coming, these were not the dews of exertion that he wiped away, but the moisture of some strangling anguish. For his face was white, and his voice, when he spoke, was harsh and broken. I'm gonna adjust the camera a little. There we go. Well, sir, he said, here we are, and God grant there be nothing wrong. Amen, Poole, answered the lawyer. Thereupon the servant knocked in the very guarded manner. The door was opened on a chain, and a voice asked from within, Is that you, Poole? Oh, I don't know what the voice is. It's all right, said Poole. Open the door. The hall when they entered it was brightly lighted up. The fire was built high, and about the hearth the whole of the servants, men and women, stood huddled together like a flock of sheep. At the sight of Mr. Utterson, the housemaid broke into hysterical whimpering, and the cook, crying out, Bless God! It's Mr. Utterson! Ran forward as if to take him in her arms. Wait. Oh. What? Are you all here? Said the lawyer peevishly. Very irregular, very unseemly. Your master would be far from pleased. They're all afraid. Blank silence followed, no one protesting. Only the maid lifted her voice and now wept loudly. Hold your tongue, Poole said to her with a ferocity of ancient, it's accent, not ancient, with ferocity of accent that testified to his own jangled nerves. And indeed, when the girl had so suddenly raised the note of her lamentations, they had all started and turned towards the inner door with faces of dreadful expectations. And now, continued the butler, addressing the knife boy, what the? Reach me a candle, and we'll get through. I'm sorry, the knife boy statement caught me off guard. Reach me a candle, and we'll get this through hands at once. That is not a saying used anymore. And when he and then he begged Mr. Utterson to follow him, and led the way to the back garden. I don't know why Knife Boy has gotten to me. That's not a thing anymore. So all I can imagine is it's just a boy whose job it is to go fetch knives. Give me a minute to reconstitute myself. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, sir, said he, you come as gently as you can. I want you to hear, and I don't want you to be heard. And see here, sir, if by any chance he was to ask you in, don't go. Mr. Utterson's nerves, at this point unlocked for termination, unlooked for termination, gave a jerk that nearly threw him from his balance. But he recollected his courage and followed the butler into the laboratory building through the surgical theater, with its lumber of crates and bottles, to the foot of the stairs. Here Poole motioned him to stand on one side and listen, while he himself, setting down the candle and making a great obvious call on his resolution, mounted the steps and knocked with a somewhat uncertain hand on the red baize of the cabinet door. Mr. Utterson, sir, asking to see you, he called, and even as he did so, once more violently signed to the lawyer to give ear. A voice answered from within, Tell him I cannot see anyone, it said complainingly. Thank you, sir, said Poole, with a note of something like triumph in his voice. And taking up his candle, he led Utterson back across the yard and into a great kitchen where the fire was out and the beetles were leaping on the door. Sir, he said, looking Mr. Utterson in the eyes, was that Master's voice? No, he didn't have the southern accent. It seems much changed, replied the lawyer, very pale, but giving look for look. Changed? Well, yes, I think so, said the butler. Have I been 20 years in this man's house to be deceived about his voice? No, sir. Master's made away with. He was made away with 8 days ago when we heard him cry out upon the name of God. And who's in there instead of him, and why it stays there, is a thing that cries to heaven, Mr. Utterson. This is a very strange tale, Poole. This is rather a wild tale, my man, said Mr. Utterson, biting his finger. Suppose it were, as you suppose, supposing Dr. Jekyll to have been, well, murdered, what could induce the murderer to stay? That won't hold water. It doesn't commend itself to reason. Well, Mr. Utterson, you are a hard man to satisfy, but I'll do it yet, said Poole. All this last week, you must know him, or it, whatever is that lives in that cabinet, has been crying night and day for some sort of medicine that cannot get they cannot get it to his mind. It was sometimes his way, the master's that is, to write his orders on a sheet of paper and throw it on the door. We've had nothing else this week back, nothing but papers and a closed door, and the very meals left there to be smuggled in when nobody was looking. Well, sir, every day, aye, and twice and thrice in the same day, there have been orders and complaints, and I have been sent flying to all the wholesale chemists in town. Every time I brought the stuff back, there would be another paper telling me to return it, because it was not pure, and another order in a different firm. This drug, it wanted bitter bad. Is wanted bitter bad. So whatever for. Have you any of these papers? Asked Mr. Utterson. Poole felt his pocket and handed out a crumbled note, which the lawyer, bending nearer to the candle, carefully examined. Its contents ran thus. Dr. Jekyll represents his compliments to Messrs. Ma. He assures them that their last sample is impure and quite useless for his present purpose. In the year 18 Dr. J purchased a somewhat large quantity of Messer M. God damn it. Mr. M, he now begs them to search with most sedulous care, and should any of the same quality be left, forward it to him at once. Expense is no consideration. The importance of this to Dr. Jekyll, to Dr. J, can hardly be exaggerated. So far the letter had run composedly enough, but here, with the sudden splutter of the pen, the writer's emotion broke loose. For God's sake, he added, find me some of the old. This is a strange note, said Mr. Utterson, and then sharply, how do you come to have it open? The man at Mars was main angry, sir, and he threw it back to me like so much debt, returned Poole. This is unquestionably the doctor's hand, do you know? Resumed the lawyer. I thought it looked like it, said the servant rather sulkily, and then, with another voice, but what matters hand of right, he said. I've seen him. Seen him? Repeated Mr. Utterson. Well? That's it, said Poole. It was this way. I came suddenly into the theatre from the garden. It seems he had slipped out to look for his drug, or whatever it is, for the cabinet door was open, and there he was at the far end of the room digging among the crates. He looked up when I came in, gave a kind of cry, and whipped upstairs into the cabinet. It was but for a minute that I saw him, but the hair stood upon mine head like quails. Sir, if that was my master, why had he a mask upon his face? If it was my master, why did he cry out like a rat and run from me? I have served him long enough. And then the man paused and passed his hand over his face. These are all very strange circumstances, said Mr. Utterson, but I think I begin to see daylight. Your master, Poole, is plainly seized with one of those maladies that both tortures and deforms the sufferer. Hence, for aught I know, the alteration of his voice Hence the mask and the avoidance of his friends. Hence his eagerness to find this drug by means of which the poor soul retains some hope of ultimate recovery. God grant that he be not deceived. There is my explanation. It is sad enough, Poole, aye, and appalling to consider, but is plain and natural, hangs well together, and delivers us from all exorbitant alarms. Sir, said the butler, turning to a sort of mottled Polo, that thing was not my master. And there's the truth, my master. Here he looked round him and began to whisper, is a tall, fine build of a man, and this was more of a dwarf. Utterson attempted to protest. Oh, sir! Oh, sir! Cried Poole. Do you think I do not know my master after 20 years? Do you think I do not know where his head comes to in the cabinet door, where I saw him every morning of my life? No, sir, that thing in the mask was never Dr. Jekyll. God knows what it was, but it was never Dr. Jekyll, and it is the belief of my heart that there was murder done. Poole, replied the doctor, if you say that, it will become my duty to make certain, much as I desire to spare your master's feelings, much as I am puzzled by this note which seems to prove him to still be alive, I shall consider it my duty to break in that door. Ah, Utterson, that's talking, cried the butler. And now comes the second question, resumed Utterson. Who is going to do it? Why, you and me, sir, was the undaunted reply. That's very well said, returned the lawyer, and whatever comes of it, I shall make it my business to see you are no loser. There is an axe in the theatre, continued Poole, and you might take the kitchen poker for yourself. The lawyer took that rude but weighty instrument into his hand and balanced it. Do you know, Poole, he said, looking up, that you and I are about to place ourselves in a position of some peril? You may say so, sir, indeed, returned the butler. It is well, then, that we should be frank, said the other. We both think more than we have said. Let us make a clear breast. This masked figure that you saw, did you recognize it? Well, sir, it went so quick, and the creature was so doubled down that I could hardly swear to that, was the answer. But if you mean, was it Mr. Hyde? Why, yes, I think it was. You see, it was much of the same bigness, and it had the same quick, light way with it. And then who else could have got in by the laboratory door? You have not forgot, sir, that at the time of the murder he had still the key with him. But that's not all. I don't know, Mr. Utterson, if you ever met this Hyde. Yes, said the lawyer. I once spoke with him. Then you must know as well as the rest of us that there was something queer about the gentleman, something that gave a man a turn. I don't know rightly how to say it, sir, beyond this, that you felt it in your marrow, kind of cold and thin. I own I felt something of what you describe, said Mr. Utterson. Quite so, returned Poole. Well, when that masked thing like a monkey jumped from among the chemicals and whipped into the cabinet, it went down my spine like ice. Oh, I know it's not evidence, but Mr. Utterson, I'm book learned enough for that. But a man has his feelings, and I give you my Bible word, it was Mr. Hyde. I, I, said the lawyer, my fears inclined to the same point. Evil, I fear, founded. Evil was sure to come of that connection. I believe you. I believe poor Harry is killed. And I believe his murderer, for what purpose God alone can tell, is still lurking in his victim's room. Well, let our name be vengeance. Call Bradshaw. The footman came at the summons, very white and nervous. Pull yourself together, Bradshaw, said the lawyer. This suspense, I know, is telling upon all of you. But it is now our intention to make an end of it. Poole here and I are going to force our way into the cabinet. If all is well, my shoulders are broad enough to bear the blame. Meanwhile, I did not think he was going to be like a big dude. Apparently, I've been giving this big dude a nasally voice this entire time. Whatever. Meanwhile, lest anything should really be amiss, or any malefactory seek to escape by the back, you and the boy must go around the corner with a pair of good sticks and take your post at the laboratory door. We give you 10 minutes to get to your stations. As Bradshaw left, the lawyer looked at his watch. And now, Poole, let us get to ours, he said, and taking the poker under his arm, led the way into the yard. The scud had banked over the moon, and it was now quite dark. The wind, which only broke in puffs and draughts into the deep well of the building, tossed the light of the candle to and fro about their steps until they came upon the shelter of the theatre, where they sat down silently to wait. London hummed solemnly all around, but nearest at hand the stillness was only broken by the sound of a footfall moving to and fro along the cabinet door. Ooh. Oh. Okay, that's not important. Oh, actually, shit. I think I might have turned. No, okay. Don't worry about it. There's a notification that Automod caught a bot message, it looks like. Yeah. Got a little distracted by that. To and fro the cabinet floor. So it will walk all day, sir, whispered Poole. Sorry. So it will walk all day, sir, whispered Poole. Aye, and the better part of the night. Only when a new sample comes from the chemist, there's a bit of a break. Ah, it's an ill conscience that's such an enemy to rest. Ah, sir, there's blood foully shed in its every step of it. But hark again a little closer. Put your heart in your ears, Mr. Utterson, and tell me, is that the doctor's foot? The steps fell lightly and oddly, with a certain swing, for all they went so slowly. It was different, indeed, from the heavy, creaking tread of Henry Jekyll. Utterson sighed. It is never anything else, he asked. Poole nodded. Once, he said, once I heard weeping. Weeping? How that? Said the lawyer, conscious of the sudden chill of horror. "Weeping like a woman or a lost child," said the butler. "I came away with that upon my heart, that I could have wept too." But now the 10 minutes drew to an end. Poole disinterred the axe from under a stack of packing straw. The candle was set upon the nearest table to light them to the attack, and they drew near with bated breath to where the patient foot was still going up and down in the quiet of the night. "Jekyll!" cried Utterson with a loud voice. "I demand to see you!" He paused a moment, but there came no reply. "I give you fair warning. Our suspicions are aroused, and I must and shall see you." He resumed. "If not by fair means, then by foul. If not for our consent, then by brute force." "Utterson," said the voice, "for God's sake, have mercy." "Ah, that's not Jekyll's voice, it's Hyde's," cried Utterson. "Down with the door, Poole!" Poole swung the axe over his shoulder. The blow shook the building, and the red baize door leaped against the lock and hinges. A dismal screech, as of mere animal terror, rang from the cabinet. Up went the axe again, and again the panels crashed and the frame bounded. 4 times the blow fell, but the wood was tough and the fittings were of excellent workmanship, and it was not until the 5th that the lock burst and the wreck of the door fell inwards on the cabinet. The besiegers, appalled by their own riot and the stillness that had succeeded, stood back a little and peered in. There lay a cabinet before their eyes in the quiet lamplight, a good fire glowing and shattering on the hearth, the kettle singing its thin strain, a drawer or two open, papers neatly set forth on the business table, and near the fire the things laid out for tea. The quietest room you ever would have said, and but for the glazed presses full of chemicals, the most commonplace that night in London. Right in the middle there lay the body of a man, so sorely contorted and still twitching. They drew near on tiptoe, turned it on its back, and beheld the face of Edward Hyde. He was dressed in clothes far too large for him, clothes of a doctor's bigness. The cords of his face still moved with a semblance of life, but life was quite gone, and by the crushed phenol in his hand and strong smell of kernels that hung upon the air, Utterson knew that he was looking on the body of a self-destroyer. Thank you for saving me the algorithm, if they had said the other word. "We have come too late," he said sternly. "Whether to save or punish, Hyde is gone to his account, and it only remains for us to find the body of your master." The far greater proportion of the building was occupied by the theatre, which filled almost the whole ground story and was lighted from above, and by the cabinet, which formed an upper story at one end and looked upon the court. A corridor joined the theater to the door on the by street, and with this cabinet communicated separately by the second flight of stairs. There were besides a few dark closets and spacious cellar. All these they now thoroughly examined. Each closet needed but a glance, for all were empty, and all, by the dust that fell from their doors, had stood long unopened. The cellar, indeed, was filled with crazy lumber, mostly dating from the times of the surgeon who was Jekyll's predecessor. But even as they opened the door, they were advertised for they were advertised of the uselessness of of further search by the fall of a perfect mat of cobweb which had for years sealed up the entrance. Nowhere was there any trace of Henry Jekyll, dead or alive. Poole stamped on the flags of the corridor. "He must be buried here," he said, hearkening to the sound. "Or he may have fled," said Utterson, and he turned to examine the door in the by street. It was locked, and lying near by on the flags, they found the key already stained with rust. "This does not look like use," observed the lawyer. "Use!" echoed echoed Poole. "Do you not see? It is broken, much as if a man had stamped on it." "Aye," continued Utterson, "and the fractures, too, are rusty." The two men looked at each other with a scare. "This is beyond me, Poole," said the lawyer. "Let us get back to the cabinet." They mounted the stairs in silence, and still with an occasional awestruck glance at the dead body, proceeded more thoroughly to examine the contents of the cabinet. At one table there were traces of chemical work, various measured heaps of some white salt being laid on glass saucers, as though for an experiment in which the unhappy man had been prevented. Oops. That that is the same drug that I was always bringing him," said Poole. "Cocaine. Sorry. my apologies," said Poole, and even as he spoke, the kettle with the startling noise boiled over. This brought them to the fireside, where the easy chair was drawn cozily up, and the tea things stood ready to the sitter's elbow, and the very sugar in the cup. There were several books on the shelf. One lay beside the tea things open, and Utterson was amazed to find a copy of a pious work, for which Jekyll had several times expressed a great esteem, annotated in his own hand with startling blasphemies. Next, in the course of their review of the chamber, the searchers came to cheval glass into whose depths they looked. I'm just getting distracted. I'm sorry. Let me refocus. Into whose depths they looked with an involuntary horror, but it was so turned to show them nothing but a rosy glow playing on playing on the roof, the fire sparkling in 100 repetitions along the glazed front of the presses, and their own pale and fearful countenances stooping to look in. "This glass was seen some stranger things, sir," whispered Poole. "And surely none stranger than itself," echoed the lawyer in the same tones. "For what did Jekyll?" He caught himself up at the word with a start and with conquering the weakness. What could Jekyll want with it? He said. You may say that. Sorry. You may say that, said Poole. Next, they. Oh, I completely got the tone of that statement wrong. Sorry. Next, they turned to the business table. On the desk, among the neat array of papers, large envelope was uppermost, and bore in the doctor's hand the name of Mr. Utterson. The lawyer unsealed it, and several enclosures fell on the floor. The first was a will drawn in the same eccentric terms as the one which he had returned 6 months before, to serve as a testament in case of death, and as a deed of gift in case of disappearance. But in place of the name of Edward Hyde, the lawyer, with the indescribable amazement, read the name of Gabriel John Utterson. He looked at Poole, and then back at the paper, and last of all at the dead malefactor stretched upon the carpet. My head goes round, he said. He has been all these days in possession. He had no cause to like me. He must have raged to see himself displaced. And he was not destroyed, and he has not destroyed this document? He caught up the next paper. It was a brief note in Doctor's hand and dated at the top. Oh, Poole! Cried the lawyer. He was alive and here this day. He cannot have been disposed of in so short a space. He must still be alive. He must have fled. And then why fly? And then why fled? And how? And in that case, can we venture to declare this? Can't say that word on YouTube. I'm gonna get to drinking the sizer of Susie. Oh, we must be careful. I foresee that we may yet involve our master in some dire catastrophe. Why don't you read it, sir? Asked Poole. Because I fear, replied the lawyer solemnly. God grant I have no cause for it. And with that, he brought the paper to his eyes and read, Christ alive, I need water. I'm gonna get water at the end of this chapter. My dear Utterson, when this shall fall into your hands, I shall have disappeared. Under what circumstances I have not the penetration to foresee, but my instinct and all the circumstances of my nameless situation tell me that the end is sure and must be early. Go then, and first read the narrative which Lanyon warned me he has to place in your hands, and if you care to hear more, turn to the confession of your unworthy and unhappy friend, Henry Jekyll. There was a third enclosure? Asked Utterson. Yes, sir, said Poole, and gave it into his hands. A considerable packet sealed with several places. The lawyer put it to his pocket. I would say nothing of this paper. If your master has fled or is dead, he may at least save his credit. It is now 10. It is now 10, not isn't this. Sorry, I don't know how I injected a word there. It is now 10. I must go home and read these documents in quiet. But I shall be back before midnight, when we shall send for the police. They went out, locking the door of the theater behind them, and Utterson, once more leaving the servants gathered about the fire in the hall, drudged back to his office to read the two narratives in which this mystery had now to be explained. Okay. How long? That was 40 minutes! Oh my. Probably more like 30, like 5-ish, but still. That was easily the longest one. I think before that, it's taken us like 20 minutes to get through a chapter. We might actually do Hollow Live, Hollow Cure. I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna ask this, and then I'm gonna go get some water. Do you guys want to do Hollow Cure as an intermission, or just do Hollow Cure at the end? Just do some gameplay of Hollow Cure at the end, and maybe talk a little in the intermission instead. But I need to go get some water before I lose my voice. Okay. Honestly, I think I could also go for a break for a minute, like having a 25 to 30 minute break because my God, my voice. Let's get rid of hate. I hate how I feel right now with my voice, but yeah, but like going that full 40 minutes without taking a drink was quite the mistake. And if anyone has come in late and you're like, well, I only got half of that, you can go back and, at 2 times speed, listen back through it, and by the time you get back here, you should be done with it. Christ alive. Oh, the game audio isn't even on. Oh my God, that actually... Always remember to have water. I did not have... For once, I did not have any water near me. Oh my God, that... Hachima only, because Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. We still don't have the other Hachima outfit. Yeah, sure. Going 40 minutes without a drink was a mistake. My dad does you. Oh God. Oh wow. We got an anvil right off the bat. How wonderful. Oh God, that was a fun chapter to read. I mean, ooh. Ooh. That was a very fun chapter to read though. I want money. Ooh. Not too many voices to do. I thought there was gonna be a big fight or something, but no, he was, I guess, against the door trying to stop them from breaking in. And then breaking through the door pretty much knocked him. No, he ended it. He Minecrafted himself, right? For some reason, I thought like he was like pushed against the door and died. I think at first when they found his body, I thought that's what happened. Like he was pushed to the ground and just died. Like he had hit the back of his head or something, but he was face down, so that doesn't even make sense. Oh shit, you're right. Listen, I'm pretty tired. Listen, that was 40 minutes. My brain is addled. This is why I have intermissions. I don't have a button on the Elgato for reading, so I have to go in manually and switch it off. Ah! Thank you, though. We're getting money. Very sorry for that. I was looking at the feed like almost the entire time during that. I wasn't even thinking of the fact that I forgot to turn it off. Oh, I'm very sorry. God damn, she is leveling like a beast. Ooh. Good. And one thing though is I need to... Actually, I'm finding that when doing the recording for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which I'm having a surprisingly hard time finding the time for, so I can, you know, can do just the audio novella, because it's not a book, it's a novella. Ooh. But I am finding... Confirm, yes. Damn it. I'm trying to be overly perfect with it, and I need to be willing to make mistakes, because it's going to be my first audiobook, so I need to be more willing to make mistakes, because I keep redoing paragraphs and, like, redoing audio, and at this point it's going to, like, not only is it taking forever to record, it's taking forever to, like, edit. So I think I just need to just, like, be more willing to, like, be a little more loosey-goosey with it. Also take my time. You know, not read things super fast and get ahead of myself mentally and then fumble around. Ooh, but just be willing, because it's a suspenseful story, it shouldn't be read fast. In some parts, I mean, you do want like a little bit of a faster read when events are happening, but like while the suspense is building, you want it to be slower, and I off stream am just reading it too fast. Ooh. Also, I need to figure out what we're reading after this. We're probably gonna read Christmas excerpts from like certain stories around Christmas, because I had gotten Paradise Lost because I thought it was the length of a novella, because it was like, it's a poem, and I was like, ah, it's a poem, so like how long is that gonna be? Like, you know, it's a poetic story, probably as long as, you know, like, ooh, no longer than, say, you know, like this story. No, it's like a full book. In my defense, it's like multiple books in one, but like, yeah, no, I don't think we can do Paradise Lost, sadly. We might be able to like do book 1 of Paradise Lost, but I don't think Paradise Lost is a really smart decision to go with. Potato. Oh, I killed him. Okay, good. Ooh. I don't know why, but it's like the part in A Christmas Carol. I'm really interested in reading the part where his like old business partner comes to him. I think that would be something nice to read later in the month. Ooh. I don't know if that would be the week before or the week of Christmas, though. Ooh. Let's see, next week... Oh god, we might be streaming 5 days next week. But next week we have the Shock Mommy collab. Then we have Gunpla, then Batman, and possibly something on Wednesday. Oh. You've managed 40 minutes, what's 40 hours? Fucking... Oh god. It's not that long, for God's sakes, also. It's nowhere near that long. I wish I could read I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, but that's still that's under copyright. I don't really think Ellison... I was gonna say I don't really think Ellison would care, but I mean, I don't think Ellison's alive, so I think that... I don't think he'd care either way, but... Oh. I would love to read I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, but I just don't think that one's in the card, sadly. I need to get healing stuff, I've just realized. I've been relying on her natural healing. Ooh. The real reason I want to read Ellison's I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. I hope I'm getting the name right. I always get his name wrong, so I'm probably getting it wrong. Feather. Oh my god. Okay. is just because it's a very emotional story. It's a very manic story, and I like doing the manic voices of people going crazy. I like that, chat. Sue me. It's why I liked reading, The Telltale Heart so much. Ooh. In hindsight, maybe that should have been my first audio thing, of just reading The Telltale Heart and releasing that. Well, whatever, we're doing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Ooh. Short stories would also be applicable, though. Short stories would actually be easier to record in hindsight. Ooh. And I really did like A Telltale Heart, and I really got into reading that. Idol costume. Ooh. It is December, so I could also do The Raven, because The Raven is set in December. Ooh, I could, wait. If I have time, yeah, I should do The Raven and release it on... Is the solstice, wait. Is the winter solstice in December? Because if it is, that would be a really good time to release it. Oh god. Axe, please. Damage, damage, damage. Ooh. Oh god. Complete non sequitur, by the way, but oh, hold up, I don't want to die. Give me 1 minute. Okay. Oh, wait. I was about to read it, but then I saw this guy's alive. Hold up. I need to end this guy, chat. I want to keep that for enchanting purposes. Where is he? Okay, I got him. But I do apologize for chatting about the Nux Muda stuff last stream without actually looking into it. Turns out not much of what I said was... It's a whole thing. I mean, not much of what I said was really accurate in the grand scheme of things. Like, ooh, like there was insinuations. I mean, the guy deleted the video, which is unsure if that was at the time. It was very, like, everyone was kind of driving blind at the time. Ooh, it's something that everyone acknowledges should have never happened or been done. Personally, I would not have been as forgiving as Nux. I'll be perfectly honest. If you burn your bridge with me, I kind of look at that and go like, well, you just insinuated to the entire internet I am into diddling children, so like, I'm not, you didn't say I was, but you insinuated it, and I'm just not about that. And apparently the winter solstice, depending on, takes place around the 20th. That's what I thought. I thought it... Ooh, I knew it took place around Christmas, which is why Christmas is when it is, because it's a appropriated solstice holiday. If I remember correctly, it takes elements from several solstice holidays. Ooh. Actually, even Egyptian holidays it takes from. Let's see here. Tato. Ooh. Yeah, but ooh. I did learn though from all of this. Wrong. What's wrong? The solstice? Ooh. But oh. If it's wrong, then give us the correct thing. Ah. Don't just say wrong, there's no context, my friend. But, ooh, one thing I did learn from all of this is apparently that Nux is Israeli? That's not relevant to anything, I just didn't know that. Oh. How to... Yeah, I don't have any spider stuff, but I don't care. Wrong. Okay, cool. Okay. Well, if you have no context for that, that's not really helpful. Technically speaking, you're the one wrong because you have nothing more to say. La da da. Right now, though, unless you're talking about like the subject for the stream, this is the intermission. Ooh. Right now, I'm doing this so I can kind of get my voice back for reading. Because I can still talk, but the thing is I need to, you know, relax the reading part of my voice. Technically, I'm only one in the chat, in your chat. Chat doesn't really read numbers well, so that's not much. That doesn't really mean much. Ooh. I've had multiple active chatters, and it's literally read one I've had. So I don't really look at the numbers at all. Yeah, that's what, yeah. It does not read correctly at all. Ooh. Let's see here. I've had a friend tune in and they were counted as 2 people. I've seen this happen. YouTube has one of the most inaccurate, I shouldn't say one of the most, I can't compare it to many others, but it has very inaccurate chat counting. Let's see here. I don't know, let's just keep upgrading the potato. Not the best pick, but ooh, we're only here just to kind of grind out things. Ooh, we're not here to win a match. Why am I talking? Because as I said, there's a difference between me talking like this, which is using a different part of my voice, and my reading voice. Like, the reading voice is a different part, is the best way I can say it. It's like saying I'm resting my arm. It's like saying, like, I'm resting my arms, but I'm still doing wrist exercises, is effectively a good way to think about it. Like, you know, if you do biceps, you know, your forearms are still fine to be used. Ooh. And also, a lot of the voices I was doing were using very different parts of my voice that I usually don't use. Particularly the butler. Ooh. Also, keeping the lawyer's voice up for so long was also pretty difficult. Pretty much doing any voice that's not your natural speaking voice for a long period of time can be tiring. Ooh. Because you're working parts of your voice box that you don't normally work. Which again just goes back to the muscle analogy in different body parts. Ooh. Da-da-da. Oh god. And typically I think out loud, so I have a lot of experience using my normal speaking voice. I do not tire from using my normal speaking voice, but the reading voice, that needs a break. Ooh. I don't know. I want to crit. Oh, Christ alive. Oh, I should have enchanted the spider cooking. It's okay. Oh god. It's okay, if we die, we just get back to reading faster. Oh. I do want to kill this duck, though. Oh fuck. Oh fuck. Thing is, I don't think I can do enough damage to the duck without getting rid of my healing factor. Okay. Oh, no, 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 no. We're getting overrun. I want the meteors. I don't know why I want the meteors, I just do. Just die already. Okay. Let's get some healing in. Okay. Okay. So I'm focusing too much. I should be talking. Okay, I probably shouldn't be talking these, regardless of if it's the main part of my voice or not. Oh god. Well, we might die here, but that's okay. Please stop. Oh god. Are there any other Christmas stories besides almost said Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde like an idiot? Any Christmas stories besides A Christmas Carol that would have good excerpts in them, I wonder? God, I'm blanking on any other Christmas stories that are written for some reason. So what do you make of the implications that Jekyll is a homosexual and used Hyde as an outlet for his... Okay, I think it's just a metaphor for drug use, but I don't really subscribe to that opinion. Jesus Christ. Oh, I think it's just a metaphor for the person being a druggie right now. Oh, I mean, I know that's kind of a basic interpretation, but... Oh god. There's at least so far been no revelations of anything whatsoever of that regard. Holy shit. The only interaction Hyde has had with a child is literally stepping over them like it's Black Friday. Oh. One moment. Okay. Critique of the Victorian oppression colors the entire story. Suppression, not oppression. Depression. Frick. I feel like it's a little late to be upgrading that. Yeah. I feel like a lot of the themes are going to be more closely revealed in the next two chapters, so I wouldn't want to get too deep into it before those. Because those are going to be the exposition chapters, because it's literally going to be Lanyon, then Jekyll explaining what the whole story was about, directly or indirectly. I'll get to that when I find another when I level up again. Okay. That's the point of the whole maintain responsibility that Jekyll mentions. Your brain on French. Hey, wait, what? French literature? Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is English, isn't it? It's all set in London. Maintain response. Well, I don't think I've gotten to that yet, because I think that's going to be in Dr. Jekyll's testimony. My brain on teaching the book for multiple years. Ooh. Let's see here. No fighting. Let's see here. I don't think we've gotten to that on statements of responsibility yet, because I think it's Dr. Lanyon's, then Dr. Jekyll's testimonies. So I think Dr. Jekyll's testimony is at the very end. So, which, if Dr. Lanyon's testimony is short, we're going to go straight to, that means if it's under 30 minutes, we're probably going to jump straight to Jekyll's after Lanyon's. If it's over 30 minutes, I'm probably going to need to rest that part of my voice again. Psycho X. Fuck. Oh my god. Sorry for cursing. I'm in a little bit of a sticky situation. Oh, that's already leveled up. I should be doing that so I can get the upgrade. Fuck. Oh, crap. Actually, wait, shit. God damn it. I'm sorry for cursing more. There's something about Dune that I wanted to talk about because I know Muon likes Dune. What was it? I think I had to do with the whole 61 billion people. I think I had to do with that part of the story. Oh, I forgot about in Dune Messiah how, well, actually, I remembered in Dune proper, but I forgot in Dune Messiah. Wait, what? Oh, I haven't done this upgrade before. Oh! Oh, no, this is what I wanted. I kind of forgot that they doubled down on Dune Messiah, that, like, how deep Paul is coping with the fact that he's just, like, a terrible person. That's, like, has forgone his agency, and, like, this idea that, like, no, it's just fate that guides me. So it's like, no, I think your whole prescient visions is that your brain is calculating at a level that you can't consciously understand, so it turns them into visions of the future. And, oh... And you're just kind of coping with the whole idea that, like, no, I could not have done anything to, like, make it so that 61 billion people didn't die. I was like, Paul, I think there's several things you probably could have done. Like, I understand, like, you know, considering the size of the Dune universe, billions of people were probably gonna die regardless. But, oh god. I feel like, I mean, considering how many Fremen are there, like, he had to have committed war crimes to have, like, taken out that many people, because there's not enough Fremen to take out 61, like, billion people in war alone, is the thing. Ooh. Because there's only... Let's get this one. I don't even think there's a billion Fremen now that I think about it. In, like, total. And that's, like, and only a fraction of that would be the fighting population. Even if they're all, like, a warrior culture, still only a fraction of that would be a fighting populace that would go off to war. Ooh. So he had to commit a lot of war crimes, is the point. But I just forgot that, like, that Paul is just like, oh yeah, you know, 61 billion people were, like, destroyed because of my jihad. But I'm still a good person. It would have been more without me. And it's like, Paul, I don't think you're a good person at all. I think you're, like, one of the worst people in existence. Oop. I don't know why I forgot this, but I do find it kind of funny at the end of the first book of Dune, how the Emperor and the Soothsayer, like the Bene Gesserit mother, are both like, wait, you're not gonna, like, we just surrendered the Empire to you. You don't need to go to war with, like, the entirety of humanity, you know? And he's just like, I know, but I'm gonna do it anyways. And it's like, no, Paul, you're not gonna go out and just, like, wipe out billions of people. Yeah, I am. But why, though? Because I can't stop it. It must happen. But why must it happen? Because I saw it in my dreams. Paul, you sound like a schizophrenic right now. Come back to Earth. Oh, God. Let's see here. So he just forgoes of his entire agency by the end of the book. Da-da-da. Okay, no. Thought I saw something on Twitch. Okay. I did not expect to survive this long. My apologies. I thought I'd get back to reading a lot quicker. That's why I picked the higher difficulty. Revives. Let's see here. Enchant. Ooh. Ooh. You know, I said earlier that like a good idea for a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde movie would be to get like a father-son acting pair, and I'm kind of wondering if that's already been done. I'm just unaware of it. For the Jekyll and Hyde. Did it? Up. Up. Right, if you're still here, I do have one question. Ooh, if you would not mind sharing. Are you just a general English teacher, or are you like just a literary teacher? Or, oh, I should not have upgraded that. That's a very useful item that I just got rid of. Oh. Because he said you've been teaching it for several years. Ah! Da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh my god, 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 oh my god. Hacha hacha ma! Oh god, oh god, oh god. Thank you. I don't even know. Okay. Oh my god. Okay. I did not think we'd make it to the spider. I was actually planning for this to be how stream ends. I don't really know what to do. If we beat Spider Hachima before the finale, I don't know what we do. I guess we just read. Please stop. Please stop committing violence against me. I'm just a sweet anime girl. Give me food. Okay. Well, shit. Please just die. Or maybe we will have something to do by the end of stream. No! Fuck, that was supposed to be the finale. Hacha hacha ma, will we beat our dark selves, chat? Crap. Character select. Ooh. Let's turn this back to mute because it's quicker. And let's get back to reading after I get one more drink of water. Reading. Yeah, Dr. Lanyon's narrative first, and let's get rid of this so it's not blocking you guys. Okay. You're gonna give me 1 minute to get the drink. We're just gonna jump right into it. Okay. I just want to see how long this one is. This one feels a lot shorter. I will say, yeah. This one feels a hell of a lot shorter. We might just go between the two. We'll check Jekyll when we get to see if it's another 40-minute, but I'm feeling I'm feeling excited about this. Okay. Penultimate chapter, Dr. Lanyon's narrative. On the 9th of January, now 4 days ago, I received by the evening delivery a registered envelope addressed in the hand of my colleague and old companion, Henry Jekyll. I was a good deal surprised by this, for we were by no means in the habit of correspondence. I had seen the man, dined with him, indeed, the night before, and I could imagine nothing in our intercourse that should justify formality of registration. The contents increased my wonder, for this is how the letter ran. That was Mr. Utterson, so... Oh, no, wait. I don't care which voice I was supposed to be. So this is Dr. Jekyll in the writing, I presume? No, this is Lanyon's testimony. What am I saying? Okay, so how did Lanyon sound? 10th of December, 18... Lula. The butler sounded like this, which destroyed my voice. Dear Lanyon. Dear, ugh. Dear Lanyon, that's what it is, yes, haha. Dear Lanyon. Oh, this is a terrible voice. Well, I've already picked it. Dear Lanyon, you are one of my oldest friends. And although we may have differed at times of scientific question, I cannot remember at last on my side any break in our affection. There was never a day when if you had said to me, Jekyll, my life, my honor, my reason depend upon you. I wonder not, have... Christ alive, I need to focus. I would not have sacrificed my left hand to help you, Lanyon. My life, my honor, my reason are all at your mercy. Wait. Who? This isn't Lanyon, I'm an idiot. This is Jekyll. I'm gonna restart this because I feel like a dumbass. I'm sorry. I literally, it starts with Dear Lanyon, and I'd even just think about that for a moment. Okay, yeah. But that means we get to use the southern accent for an English gentleman again, so whatever. And this voice is actually a lot less taxing. Dear Lanyon, you are one of my oldest friends, and although we may have differed at times on scientific question, I cannot remember, at least on my side, any break in our affection. There was never a day when, if you had said to me, Jekyll, my life, my honor, my reason depend upon you, I would not have sacrificed my left hand to help you. Lanyon, my life, my honor, my reason are all at your mercy. If you fail me tonight, I am lost. You might suppose, after this preface, that I am going to ask you for something dishonorable to grant. Judge for yourself. I want you to postpone all other engagements for tonight. Even if you were summoned to the bedside of an emperor to take a cab unless your carriage should be actually at the door, and with this letter in your hand for consultation, to drive straight to my house. Poole, my butler, has his orders. You will find him waiting your arrival with a locksmith. The door of my cabinet is then to be forced, and you are to go in alone, to open the glazed press, letter E, on the left hand, breaking the lock if it be shut, and to draw out, with all its contents as they stand, the fourth drawer from the top, or, which is the same thing, the third from the bottom. In my extreme distress of mind, I have a morbid fear of misdirecting you. But even if I am in error, you may know the right drawer by its contents. Some powders, a file, and a paper book. This drawer I beg of you to carry back with you to the Cavendish Square exactly as it stands. That is the first part of the service. Now for the second. You should be back. If you set out at once on the receipt of this, long before midnight, but I will leave you that amount of margin. Not only in the fear of one of those obstacles that can neither be prevented nor foreseen, but because an hour when your servants are in bed is to be preferred for what will then remain to do. Sorry. At midnight, then I have to ask you to be alone in your consulting room to admit with your own hand into the house a man who will represent himself in my name, and to place in his hands the drawer that you will have brought with him, sorry, with you from my cabinet. Then you will have played your part and earned my gratitude completely. 5 minutes afterwards, if you insist upon any an explanation, you will have understood that these arrangements are of capital importance, and that by the neglect of one of them, fantastic as they must appear, you might have charged your conscience with my death or the shipwreck of my reason. Confident as I am that you will not trifle with this appeal, my heart sinks and my hand trembles at the bare thought of such possibility. Think of me at this hour, in a strange place, laboring under the blackness of distress that no fancy can exaggerate, and yet well aware that if you will but punctually serve me, my troubles will roll away like a story that is told. Serve me, my dear Lanyon, and save your friend, Jekyll. Oh, postscript. I had already sealed this up when a fresh terror struck upon my soul. If it is possible that the post officer may fail me, and this letter not come into your hands until tomorrow morning. In that case, dear Lanyon, do my errand when it shall be most convenient for you in the course of the day, and once more expect my messenger at midnight. It may then already be too late. If that night passes without event, you will know that you have seen the last of Henry Jekyll. Upon reading of this letter, I made sure my colleague was insane, but till that was proved beyond the possibility of a doubt, I felt bound to do as he requested. The less I understood of this farrago, the less I was in a position to judge of its importance, and an appeal so worded would not be set aside without a grave responsibility. I rose accordingly from table, got into the hansom, and drove straight to Jekyll's house. Sorry. The butler was awaiting my arrival. He had received the same post as mine, a registered letter of instruction, and had sent at once for the locksmith and a carpenter. I don't know why I'm struggling with this chapter more. Weird. The tradesmen came while we were yet speaking, and we moved in a body of old Dr. Denman's surgical theater, from which, as you are doubtless aware, Jekyll's private cabinet is most conveniently entered. The door was very strong, the lock excellent. The carpenter vowed he would have great trouble and have to do much damage if force were to be used, and the locksmith was near despair. But this last was a handy fellow, and after 2 hours' work, the door stood open. The press marked E was locked, and I took out the drawer, had it filled up with straw, and tied it in a sheet, and returned it to a Cavendish Square. I think I'm gonna do this so I'm not so distracted for a minute. Okay. Okay, I think I'm just thinking about something and I just wanted to move something on my screen. Here I proceeded to examine its contents. The powders were nearly enough made up, but not with the nicety of the dispensing chemist, so that it was plain they were of Jekyll's private manufacture. And when I opened of the wrappers, I found what seemed to be a simple crystalline salt of a white color. I had to. Sorry. I really wanted to say something. I'm very sorry about that. The file to which I next turned my attention might have been about half full of a blood red liquor, which was highly pungent to the sense of smell and seemed to me to contain phosphorus and some volatile ether. At the other ingredients, I could make no guess. The book was an ordinary version book that can. Sorry, the redundancy. Fucking. I do not know why. The book was an ordinary version book and contained little but a series of dates. These covered a period of many years, but I observed that the entries ceased nearly a year ago and quite abruptly. Here and there, a brief remark was appended to a date, usually no more than a single word, double, occurring perhaps 6 times in a total of several hundred entries, and once very early in the list, and followed by several marks of exclamation, total failure. All this, though it whetted my curiosity, told me little that was definite. Here were file of some salt, and the record of a series of experiments that had led, like too many of Jekyll's investigations, to no end of practical usefulness. How could the presence of these articles in my house affect either the hour, the sanity, or the life of my flighty colleague? If his messenger could go to one place, why could he not go to another? And even granting some impediment, why was his gentleman to be received by me in secret? The more I reflected, the more convinced I grew that I was dealing with a case of cerebral disease. And though I dismissed my servants to bed, I loaded an old revolver that I might be found in some posture of self-defense. 12 o'clock had scarce rung out over London ere the knocker sound very gently at my door. When myself at the summons and found a small man crouching against the pillars of the portico. Are you come from Dr. Jekyll? I asked. He told me yes, by a constrained gesture. And when I had bidden him enter, he did not obey me without a searching backward glance into the darkness of the square. There was a policeman not far off, advancing with his bull's eye open. And at the sight, I thought my visitor started and made greater haste. These particulars struck me, I confess, disagreeably, and as I followed him into the bright light of the consulting room, I kept my hand ready on my weapon. Here at last I had a chance of clearly seeing him. I had never yet set eyes on him before, so much was certain. He was as small as I have said. He was small as I have said. I was struck besides with the shocking expression of his face, with his remarkable combination of great muscular activity and great apparent debility of constitution, and last but not least, with the odd subjective disturbance caused by his neighborhood. This bore some resemblance to incipient rigor, and was accompanied by a marked sinking of the pulse. At the time I set it down. Oh, rigor mortis. Sorry. At the time I set it down to some idiosyncratic personal distaste and merely wondered at the acuteness of the symptoms. But I have since had reason to believe that the cause to lie much deeper in the nature of man, and to turn on some noble hinge that the principle of hatred. This person, who had thus, from the first moment of his entrance, struck me in what I can only describe as a disgustful curiosity, was dressed in a fashion that would have made an ordinary person laughable. His clothes, that is to say, although they were of rich and sober fabric, were enormously too large for him in every measurement. The trouser hanging on his legs and rolled up to keep them from the ground, the waist of the coat below his haunches, the collar sprawling wide upon his shoulders. Strange to relate, his ludicrous accoutrement was far from moving me to laughter. Rather, as there was something abnormal and misbegotten in the very essence of the creature that now faced me, something seizing, surprising, and revolting. His fresh disparity seemed but to fit in with and to reinforce it, so that my interests of man's nature and character, and there was added curiosity as to his origin, his life, his fortune, his status in this world. 1 minute, I've realized my trouble is because I'm stuffed up. There's no airflow in here. Let me fix that real quick. Give me 1 moment. My sinuses are distracting me. I can't speak properly, so I'm just okay. Very sorry for doing this in the middle of the chapter, by the way. Okay. Status in this world. Okay. I'm talking with a more nasally voice, and by doing that, it's making my bad sinuses more noticeable to myself. So hopefully, some nasal spray and some airflow will fix that. Sorry again for the pause. These observations, though they have taken so great a space to be set down in, were yet the work of a few seconds. My visitor was indeed on fire with somber excitement. "Have you got it?" he cried. "Have you got it?" And so lively was his impatience that he even laid his hand upon my arm and sought to shake me. I put him back, conscious at his touch of a certain icy pang along my blood. "Come, sir," I said. You forget that I have not yet the pleasure of your acquaintance. Be seated, if you please." And I showed him an example, and sat down myself in my customary seat, and with as fair an imitation of my ordinary manner to a patient as the lateness of the hour, the nature of my preoccupation, and the hour I had of my visitor, would suffer me to muster. I beg you, Dr. Lanyon, he replied civilly enough. What you say is very well founded, and my impatience has shown its heels to my politeness. I come here at the instance of your colleague, Dr. Henry Jekyll, on a piece of business of some moment, and I understood. He paused and put his hand to his throat, and I could see, in spite of his collected manner, that he was wrestling against the approach of the hysteria. I understood the drawer. But here I took pity on my visitor's suspense, and some. Oh, sorry. My visitor's suspense, and some perhaps on my growing curiosity. There it is, said I, pointing to the drawer where it lay on the floor, a table and still covered on the sheet. Thank you. It's not suffocating, it's just bad sinuses. If it's suffocating, my asthma would be bigger for my literal asthma. Okay. He sprung to it and then paused and laid his hand upon his heart. I could hear his teeth grating with a convulsive action of his jaw, and his face was so ghastly to see that I grew alarmed, both for his life and reason. Compose yourself, said I. He returned a dreadful smile, and as if with some decision of despair, plucked away the sheet. At sight of the contents, he uttered one loud sob of such immense relief that I sat petrified, and the next moment, in a voice that was already fairly well under control, Have you graduated glass? He asked. I rose from my place with something of an effort and gave him what he asked. He thanked me with a smiling nod, measured out a few minims of red ticker, and added one of the powders. The mixture, which was at first a reddish hue, began, in proportion as the crystals melted, to brighten in color, to effect effervescence. But no, effervescence has an E in it. Wait. I've never seen this word, I'll admit. Effervesce. I don't know. Audibly. I think I've heard the word, but I don't think I've seen it. I just realized. And to throw off small flumes of vapor. Is it just effervesce? I don't, whatever. Suddenly, and then at the same moment, the ebullition ceased, and the compound changed to a dark purple, which faded right more slowly to a watery green. My visitor, who had watched these metamorphoses with keen eye, smiled, set down the glass upon the table, then turned and looked upon me with an air of scrutiny. And now, he said, to settle what remains. Will you be wise? Will you be guided? Will you suffer me to take this glass in my hand and to go forth from your house without further parley? Or has the greed of curiosity too much command of you? Think before your answer, for it shall be done as you decide. As you decide, you shall be left as you were before, and neither richer nor wiser, unless the sense of service rendered to a man in mortal distress may be counted as a kind of riches of soul. Or, if you shall so prefer to choose a new province of knowledge and new avenue, fame and power shall be laid open to you. here in this room. Open the instant, and your sight shall be blasted by prodigy so stagger and the unbelief of Satan. Sir, said I, affecting a coolness that was far, I was far from truly possessing. You speak enigmas. You will perhaps not wonder what. Sorry, you will not wonder that I hear you with no very strong impression of belief. Ugh. But I have gone too far in my way to inexplicable services to pause before I see the end. It is well, replied the visitor. Lanyon, you remember your vows. What follows is under the seal of our profession. And now, you who have so long been bound to the most narrow and material views, you who have denied the virtue of transcendental medicine, you who have derided your superiors, behold. I just realized this is Jekyll and I should have been switching between. It doesn't matter. I should have been switching between this for Jekyll. I forgot. He put the glass to his lips and drank in one gulp. A cry followed. He reeled, staggered, clutched at the table, and held on, staring with injected eyes, gasping with open mouth. And as I looked, there came, I thought, a change. He seemed to swell. His face became suddenly black, and the features seemed to melt and alter. The next moment, I had sprung to my feet and leaped back against the wall, my arms raised to shield me from that prodigy, my mind submerged in terror. "Oh God!" I screamed. "Oh God!" again and again, for there before my eyes, pale and shaken, and half fainting and groping before him with his hands like a man restored from death, there stood Henry Jekyll. What he told me in the next hour I cannot bring my mind to set on paper. I saw what I saw, I heard what I heard, and my soul sickened at it. And yet, and yet now that Jesus Christ. And yet now, when the sight has faded from my eyes, I ask myself if I believe it. And I cannot answer. My life is shaken to its roots. Sleep has left me. The deadliest terror sits by me at all hours of the day and night, and I feel that my days are numbered, that I must die, and yet I shall die incredulous. As for the moral turpitude that the man unveiled to me, even with tears of penitence, fuck, I cannot even in memory dwell on it without a start of horror. I will say but one thing, Utterson, that if you cannot bring your mind to credit it, will be more than enough. The creature who crept into my house that night was, on Jekyll's own confession, known by the name of Hyde and hunted for in every corner of the land as the murderer of Carew, Hasty Lanyon. Okay, I'll be right back. Let me check the time. I think, okay. Kind of ends. I think we'll go into the next chapter because I'm feeling it, but I need to get. I've been able to clear my sinuses, but I still have a stuffy nose, so I'm gonna fix that real quick, and I'll be right I can breathe through my nose again. Hello, Opus. Oh my god, that I'm actually gonna I'm gonna take one more blow. That sounds wrong, but give me a minute. It's very hard to breathe when you can't have circular breathing going on. Is okay, no. This keeps updating for some reason. But it's very hard to read because the best way to read is to breathe in through your nose while you're reading out your mouth, kind of, and so you're always having some oxygen in, and you're not pausing, and your brain's not going, well, hold up, you need to take a breath now. So I'm still probably gonna stumble around a lot, but it won't be as bad now. Is the important thing. Now this part's gonna be a lot longer. In fact, it's literally this entire section, which is pretty insane because yeah, it's all of this, which is, what is that, like one, two, oh my god, that's a lot. That's a lot. I muted myself, so you don't fucking but that the question is, chat, do you want to roll for you know what, let's roll for Hachima before we start, actually, and I'll remember to turn this off. We're not gonna play around, but we're gonna roll for Hachima. We're gonna see if before we do our final game at the end of all of this and reflect over the full story. Where's reading? Yeah, I need to put this on the Elgato. Okay. Because when we're all done, oh, god damn it. We're not playing another round. We're just gonna do, because I think if we play another round, there's gonna be another 4-hour stream. It might be another 4-hour stream regardless. But it's gonna do some gambling. That's not gambling. Okay. We have 14,000, chat. We can roll 14 times for Hachima. Hachima! Hachima! Not Hachima. We need to get the Jekyll. Sorry, we need to get the hide to our Jekyll. No. Chat, give me your energy. Give me your Hachima energy. Think of the most cursed thing Hachima has ever done so that we can roll Hachima. Hachima! Damn it. Hachima! Damn it. Hachima! I don't think we're getting it, chat. I don't think we're getting it. I think we're gonna have to pay for Hachima at the end of this. Oh my god. I need Mr. Satan on stream to tell the world to give me their energy at this point. I do find that funny in Dragon Ball. Everyone's just like, who's this Goku guy? Why is he telling us to give his energy? They did it again! They gave me the other Hachima. They gave me the other dress for Hako. I want Hachima. I need her Chinuba Bibi Dubu. I forget what it's called, but like Chibu. I can't get it right. We're not getting Hachima, guys. We're gonna have to pay for Hachima. We got an alternate outfit for somebody else, and I was so disappointed it wasn't Hachima. I didn't look at it. Okay, no Hachima, I guess. Whatever, whatever. We just have to pay for Hachima. I hope we have enough with our... Wait. I know how to get more money. I know how to get more money before playing around. We're gonna have to go fishing, I think, and then we can... We'll have to go fishing or something, and then we can pay for the Hachima, or we're gonna have to do another round and then we'll unlock Hachima at the very end. I don't know. Gambling, you have failed me. How could you? Okay, this one might be... It is pretty long, and we're probably gonna have to take a break or two. But This is an old 1800 story. This is where all the exposition happens. This is where all the explaining happens. So this is probably going to be dry as hell. Which is fitting because my voice is dry as hell right now. Let's get a drink. You can tell the story's a sci-fi because it just says 18 bleh, you know? Just like how today, you'll have something that's like set in the year 20XX or something. This dude was doing it before the animes, dude. What a legend. Can you... Twitch, can you stop updating me? Hold up. I don't care. Oh. Okay, hold up. I need to... You should have had a pecan pie? Damn, dude. I still need to make a pumpkin pie. I didn't have time to make a pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving. I still need to make an apple pie. I only make one apple pie a year, and I haven't made one yet. And the apples are no longer in season, so I'm on borrowed time, man. But let's get reading up. I think I haven't had a pecan pie in like, damn, in a long time. I think maybe a decade. Damn, I was young. Okay. Henry Jekyll's full statement of the case, the final chapter. Oh, I get to do the southern accent this entire time because it's Henry Jekyll. Awesome. Awesome. I was born in the year 18 blah, 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 to a large fortune, endowed besides with excellent parts, inclined by nature to industry, fond of the respect of the wise and good among my fellow man, and thus, as might have been supposed, with very guarantee of an honorable and distinguished future. And indeed the worst of my faults was a certain impatience, gaiety of disposition, such as has made the happiness of many, but such as I found in hard to reconcile with my imperious desire to carry my head high, and wear a more than commonly grave countenance before the public. I hence good on pumpkin bars, by the way. I came about, and I concealed my pleasures, and when I reached years of reflection and began to look around me and take stock of my progress and position in the world, I stood already. I'm not muted, am I? Okay. Of course I'm not muted. I was just talking to you, Jesus Christ. Already committed to a profound duplicity of life. Many of my would have wait. Yeah, many of many a man would have even blazoned such irregularities as I was guilty of, but from the high views that I had set before me, I regarded the I regarded and hid them with an almost morbid sense of shame. It was thus rather the exacting nature of my aspirations than any particular degradation of my faults. And that made me that I was, and with even a deeper trench than in the majority of men, severed in me those provinces of good and ill which divide and compound man's dual nature. In this case, I was driven to reflect deeply and invertedly on the hard law of life, which lies at the root of religion, and is one of the most plentiful springs of distress. Though so profound a double dealer, I was in no sense a hypocrite. Both sides of me was in dead earnest. I was no more myself when I laid aside restraints and plunged in shame than when I labored in eye of day at the furtherance of knowledge or the relief of sorrow and suffering. And it chanced that the direction of my scientific studies, which led wholly towards the mystic and transcendental, reacted which led wholly to reacted and shed a strong light on this consciousness of perennial war among my members. With every day, and from both sides of my intelligence, the moral and intellectual, I thus drew steadily nearer to the truth, by whose partial discovery I have been doomed to such a dreadful shipwreck that man is not truly one, but truly two. I saw two, because the state of my own knowledge does not pass beyond that point. Others will follow. Others will outstrip me on the same lines, and I hazard the guess that a man will be ultimately known for the mere polity of multifarious, incongruous, and independent denizens. I, for my part, from the nature of my life, advanced infallibly in one direction, and in one direction only. I was one of the moral side, and in my own person, that I learned to recognize the thorough and primitive duality of man. I saw that of the two natures that contended in the field of my consciousness, even if I could rightly be said to be either. I was only, it was only because I was radically both, and from an early date, even before the course of my scientific discoveries had begun to suggest most naked possibility of such a miracle, I had earned to dwell with pleasure as a beloved daydream on the thought of the separation of these elements. If each, I told myself, could be housed in separate identities, life would be relieved of all that was unbearable. The unjust might go his way, delivered from the aspirations and remorse of his upright twin, and just could walk steadfastly and securely on his upward path, doing the good things in which he found his pleasure, and no longer exposed to disgrace and penitence by the hands of his extraneous evil. It was the curse of mankind that these uncruous I I can technically say that word, but I'm gonna get banned if I do. Uh, sticks were thus bound together. That in the agonized womb of consciousness, I know the context makes it okay, but Twitch is Twitch and YouTube is YouTube. These polar twins could be continuously struggling. How then were they disassociated? I know it's not in this slur term. I know that, but it's just I don't think any person reviewing it would know would care. Ooh, ooh, Brian Legerson. I didn't get that far. Ooh. I was so far in my reflection when, as I had said, a side light began to shine upon the subject from the laboratory table. I began to perceive more deeply than it has ever yet been stated the trembling immateriality and the mist-like transience of the seemingly so solid body in which we walk are tied. Certain agents I found to have the power to shake and pluck back that fleshy vestment, even as a wind might toss the curtains of a pavilion. For some good reason, I will not enter deeply into this scientific branch of my confession. First, because I have been made to learn that the doom and burden of our life is bound forever on man's shoulders, and when the attempt is made to cast it off, it must re- sorry, it but returns upon us with more unfamiliar and more awful pressure. Second, because as my narrative will make, alas, too evident, my discoveries were incomplete. Enough then that I not only recognize my natural body from the mere aura in effluence, said that wrong, of certain of the powers that made up my spirit, but managed to compound a drug by which these powers could be dethroned from their supremacy, and a second form and continent substituted, none the less natural to me because they were the expression then bore the stamp of lower elements in my soul. So this isn't simply a science fiction, it's a science fantasy. Okay. I hesitated long before I put this theory to the test of practice. I knew well that I risked death, but any drug so potently controlled and shook the very fortress of identity might, by the last scruple of an overdose, or at the least an opportunity in the moment of exhibition, utterly blot out the material tabernacle which I looked to it to change. Oh, yeah, no, look to it to change, yeah. But the temptation of a discovery so singular and profound at last overcame my suggestions of alarm. I had long since prepared my tincture, whatever. I purchased at once from a firm of wholesale chemists a large quantity of a particular salt, which I knew from my experiments to be the last ingredient required. Cocaine. That was not part of the book, I'm sorry. And late one accursed night, I compounded the elements, watched them boil and smoke together in a glass, and when the ebullition had subsided, with strong glow and courage, I drank off the potion. It is so hard not to make crack cocaine jokes at this. I'm sorry. It is, and it is, it is. I don't think that was the intention, but like because crack cocaine didn't frickin' exist at the time. But Christ alive, he discovered crack cocaine like a century early. Okay, let's keep reading the memoirs of Dr. Roxo. My apologies. The most racking pang succeeded, a grinding in the bones, deadly nausea, and the horror of the spirit that cannot be exceeded at the hour of birth or death. Then these agonies began swiftly to subside, and I came to myself as if out of great sickness. There was something strange in my sensation, something indescribably new, and from its very novelty, incredibly sweet. I felt younger, lighter, happier in body. Within, I was conscious of a heady recklessness, a current of disorder, a current of disordered sensual images running into my mill race in my fancy, a solution of the bonds of obligation, an unknown but not an innocent freedom of the soul. I knew myself at the first breath of this new life to be more wicked, tenfold more wicked, sold as a slave to my original evil, and the thought in the moment braced and delighted me like wine. I stretched out my hands, exulting in the freshness of the sensations, and in the act I was suddenly aware that I had lost my stature. There was no mirror. at that date in my room that which stands besides me as I write was brought there later on and for a very purpose for these transformations. The night, however, was far gone into the morning. The morning, black as it was nearly ripe for the conception of the day. The inmates of my house were locked in the most rigorous hours of slumber, and I determined, flushed as I was with hope and triumph, to venture in my new shape as far as my bedroom. I crossed the yard wherein the constellations looked down upon me. I could have thought with wonder the first creature of that sort that their unsleeping vigilance had yet disclosed to me. I stole through the corridors, a strain in my own house, and coming to my room, I saw for the first time the appearance of Edward Hyde. I must here speak my theory alone, saying not that which I know, but that which I suppose to be honest, probably. Most probable, not the evil side of my nature, to which I had now transferred stamping efficiency, was less robust and less developed than the good which I had just deposed again in the course of my life, which had been, after all, 9/10 of life of effort, virtue, and control. It had been much less exercised and more or less exhausted, and hence, as I think, I came about. Edward Hyde was so much smaller, slighter, and younger than Henry Jekyll, even as good sown upon the countenance of the one, evil was written up broadly and plainly on the face of the other. Evil, besides, which I must still believe to be the lethal side of man, had left on the body an imprint of deformity and decay. And yet, when I looked upon that ugly idol in the glass, I was conscious of no repugnance, rather a leap of welcome. To this I was myself. It seemed natural and human. In my eyes I bore a livelier image of the spirit. It seemed more express and single than the imperfect and divided countenance I had hitherto accustomed to call mine. And in so far I was doubtless right. I had observed that when I wore the semblance of Edward Hyde, none could come near me at first without visible misgivings of the flesh. This, as I take it, was because all humans, as we meet them, are coming led out of good and evil, and Edward Hyde, alone in the ranks of mankind, was pure evil. I lingered but a moment at the mirror. The second and the convulsive experiment had yet to be attempted. It yet remained to be seen if I had lost my identity beyond redemption and must flee before the daylight from the house that was no longer mine. And hurrying back to the cabinet, I once more prepared the drink and drank the cup, once more suffered the pangs of dissolution, and came to myself once more with the character and stature and the face of Henry Jekyll. Gonna take a drink after all that. That night I had come to a fatal crossroads. I had approached my discovery in the more noble spirit, had risked the experiment while under the empire of generous, pious aspirations. All must have been otherwise. And from the agonies of death and birth, I had come forth an angel instead of a fiend. The drug had no discriminating action. It was neither diabolical nor divine. It but shook the doors of the prison house of my disposition, and like the captive of Philippi, that which stood within ran forth. At that time my virtue slumbered, my evil kept awake by the ambitions, was alter and swift to seize the occasion, and the thing that was projected was Edward Hyde. Hence, although I had now two characters as well as two appearances, one was wholly evil and the other still the old Henry Jekyll, that incongruous compound of whose reformation and improvement I had already learned to despair. The movement was thus wholly towards the worse. Ooh, I should have turned back already. Even at that time, I had not conquered my aversion to the dryness of my study. I would still merely disposed at times, and as my pleasures were, to say the least, undignified, and I was not only well known and highly considered, but growing towards an elderly man, this incoherency of my life was daily growing more unwelcome. I was on his side that my new power tempted me until I fell in slavery. I had but to drink the cup, to doff at once the body of the noted professor, and assume like a thick cloak that of Edward Hyde. I smiled at the notion. Appealed to me the time of humorous, and I made my preparations with the most studious care. I took the furnished and the houses of Soho, to which Hyde was tracked by the police and engaged as a housekeeper creature whom I knew well to be silent and unscrupulous. On the other side, I announced to my servants that Mr. Hyde, who I described, was to have full liberty and power about my house in the square, and to parry mishaps. I even called and made myself familiar object in my second character. I next drew up that will to which you so much objected, so that if anything befell me in the person of Dr. Jekyll, I could enter on that of Edward Hyde without there's no R in there, so pecuniary loss, and thus fortified, as I suppose, on every side, I began to profit by a strange immunities of my position. Men before hired bravos to transact their crimes, while their own person and reputation sat under shelter. I was the first that ever did so for his pleasures. I was the first that could plod in the public eye with a loud of genial respectability, and in a moment, like a schoolboy, strip off these lendings and spring headlong into the sea of liberty. But for me, in my impenetrable mantle, the safety was complete. Think of it. I did not even exist. Let me but escape into the laboratory door. Give me but a second or two to mix and swallow the draught, and I had always standing ready. And whatever he had done, Edward Hyde would pass away like the stain of breath upon a mirror. And there is his stead, quietly at home trimming midnight lamp in the study, a man who could afford to laugh at suspicion, would be Henry Jekyll. The pleasures I made haste to seek in my disguise were, as I have said, undignified. I would scarce use a harder term, but sorry, but in the hands of Edward Hyde, they soon began to turn towards the monstrous. When I would come back from my excursions, I would often plunged into a kind of wonder at my vicarious depravity. This familiar that I called out of my own soul and set forth alone to do his good pleasure was a being inherently malign and villainous. His every act and thought centered on self drinking pleasure with bestial avidity from any degree of torture uh, to another, relentless like a man of stone. Henry Jekyll stood in at times aghast before the acts of Edward Hyde, but the situation was apart from ordinary laws and insidiously relaxed the gasp of conscience. It was Hyde, after all, and Hyde alone, that was guilty. Jekyll was no worse. He woke up again to hide his good qualities seemingly unimpaired. He would even make haste where it was possible to undo the evil done by Hyde, and thus his conscience slumbered. Into the details of the infamy at which I thus confined, for even now I can scarce grant that I committed it. I have no design of entering. I mean but to point out the warning that the successive steps with which my chastisement approached, I met with one accident, which, as it brought on no consequence, I shall know more. I'm going into an English accent. He's supposed to be Southern. I mean, he's supposed to be English, but I've been giving him Southern accent to be consistent. I shall no more mention an act of cruelty to a child aroused against me the anger of a passerby, whom I recognized the other day in the person of your kinsman. The doctor and the child's family joined him. They were moments. Oh, there were moments when I feared for my life. And at last, in order to pacify their too just resentment, Edward Hyde had to bring them to the door and pay them in a check drawn in the name of Henry Jekyll. But this danger was easily eliminated from the future by opening an account in another bank in the name of Edward Hyde himself. And when, by sloping my own hand backward, I had supplied my double, which, with a signature, I thought I sat beyond the reach of fate. Another sip. Some 2 months before the murder of Sir Danvers, I had been out for one of my adventures, had returned at a late hour, and woke the next day in bed with somewhat odd sensations. It was in vain I looked about me. In vain I saw the decent furniture and tall proportions of my room in square. In vain I recognized the pattern of the bed curtains and design of the mahogany frame. Something still kept insisting that I was not where I was, that I had not wakened where I seemed to be, but in the little room in Soho where I was accustomed to sleep in the body of Edward. I smiled to myself that in my psychological way began lazily to inquire into the elements of this illusion, occasionally, even as I did so, dropping back into a comfortable morning doze. I was still so engaged when in one of my more wakeful moments my eyes fell upon my hand. Now the hand of Henry Jekyll, as you have often remarked, was professional in shape and size. It was large, firm, white, comely, but the hand which I now saw clearly enough in the yellow light of the mid-London morning, lying half shut on the bedcloth, was lean, corded, knuckly, of a dusky pallor, and thickly shaped with a swart growth of hair. It was a hand of Edward Hyde. I must have stared upon it for near half a minute, sunk as I was in the mere stupidity of wonder, before terror woke me in my breast as sudden and startling as the crash of cymbals. And bounding from my bed, I rushed to the mirror. At the sight that met my eyes, my blood was changed to something exquisitely thin and icy. Yes, I had gone to bed Henry Jekyll, and I had awoken Edward Hyde. How was this to be explained? I asked myself. And then, with another bound of terror, how was it to be remedied? I was, yeah. It was well on in the morning, and servants were up. All my drugs were in the cabinet. A long journey down two pairs of stairs, through the back passage, across the open court, and through the anatomical theater. From where I was standing, horror struck, it might indeed be possible to convert my face, but of what use was that when I was unable to conceal the alteration of my stature? And and then, with an overpowering sweetness of relief, it came back upon my mind that the servants were already used to the comings and goings of the second self. I had soon dressed as well as I was able, and in clothes of my own size. I had soon passed through the house where Bradshaw stared and drew back at seeing Mr. Hyde at such an hour and in such a strange array. The 10 minutes later, Dr. Jekyll had returned to his shape and was sitting down with a darkened brow to make a feint of breakfasting. Small indeed was my appetite. This inexplicable incident, this reversal of my previous experience, seemed like the Babylonian fingers on the wall to be spelling out the letters of my judgment. And I began to reflect upon and began to reflect more seriously than ever before on the issues and possibilities of my double existence. That part of me which I had the power of projecting had lately been much exercised and nourished. It had seemed to me late as though the body of Edward Hyde was growing in stature, as though when I wore that form I were conscious of a more generous tide of blood, and I began to spy danger that, if this were much prolonged, the balance of my nature might be permanently overthrown, the power of voluntary change be forfeited, and the character of Edward Hyde become irrevocably mine. The power of the drug had not been always equally displayed. Once, very early in my career, it had totally failed me. Since then, I had been obliged on more than one occasion to double, and once with infinite risk of death, or treble the amount. Oh, treble the amount. Antiquated. These are rare uncertainties had cast hitherto the sole shadow of my contentment. Now, however, and in the light of the morning accident, I was led to remark that whereas in the beginning the difficulty had begun to throw off the body of Jekyll, It had of late gradually but decidedly transferred itself to the other side. All things therefore seemed to point to this, that I was slowly losing hold of my original better self and becoming slowly incorporated with my second and worse. Not leaving to get better airflow. I'm gonna open the door because I shouldn't have noise pollution worries anymore. Sorry, there was a fan on in the background, so I also had to turn that off. Okay. Small indeed was my appetite. Yeah, okay. Bop, and we're back. Back again. Okay. Don't need to unmute myself because I didn't mute myself to begin with. Okay. Between these two, I now felt that I had to choose. My two natures had memory in common, but all other faculties were most unequally shared between them. Jekyll, who was composite, now with a most sensitive apprehension, now with a greedy gusto, projected and shared in the pleasure and adventures of Hyde. But Hyde was indifferent to Jekyll. All but remembered him as a mountain bandit remembers a cavern in which he conceals himself from pursuit. Jekyll had more than a father's interest. Hyde had more than a son's indifference. To cast in my lot with Jekyll was to die to those appetites which I had long secretly indulged, and had of late begun to pamper. To cast in with Hyde was to die to a thousand interests and aspirations, and become at a blow and forever despised and friendless. The bargain might appear unequal, but there was still another consideration in the scales. For while Jekyll would suffer smartingly in the fires of abstinence, Hyde would not even Hyde would not even conscience, yeah, I don't know, of all, would not even conscience of all that he had lost. Strange as my circumstances were, the terms of this debate are as old and commonplace as man, much the same uh, inducements and alarms cast the die from any tempted and, and trembling sinner, and it fell out with me. And it fell out with me as it falls with so vastly a majority of fellows, that I chose the better part and found wanting in the strength to keep it. I think also a problem is when I'm getting to the bottom of the page, I'm looking down, which is affecting my reading voice, but also it's just like it's affecting pretty much my breathing and reading voice. So I have it too low on the screen, so I'm gonna lift it up, and hopefully this will go better. I prefer the elderly and discontented doctor, surrounded by friends and cherished honest hopes, and bade a resolute farewell to the liberty and comparative youth and light step, leaping impulses and secret pleasures that I had enjoyed in the disguise of Hyde. I made this choice perhaps with some unconscious reservations, for I neither gave up the house of Soho nor destroyed the clothes of Edward Hyde, which still lay ready in my cabinet. For 2 months, however, I was true to my determination. For 2 months, I led a life of such severity as I had never before attained to, and enjoyed the compensations of an approving conscience. But time began at last to obliterate the freshness of my alarm. The praises of conscience began to grow into a thing of course. I began to be tortured with the throes and and longings as of hide struggling after freedom. And at last, in an hour of moral weakness, I once again compounded and swallowed the transforming draught. I do not suppose that when a drunkard reasons with himself upon his vice, he is once out of 500 times affected by the draught dangers that he runs through his brutish physical insensibility. Neither had I, long as I had considered my position, made enough allowance for the complete moral insensibility and insensate readiness to evil, which were the leading characters of Edward Hyde. Yet it was by these that I was punished. My devil had long been caged. Christ along, I'm sorry. He came out roaring. I was conscious, even when I took the draught, of a more unbridled, a more furious propensity to ill. I must have been this, I suppose, that stirred in my soul the tempest of impatience with which I listened to the civilities of my unhappy victim. I declared at last before God, no man morally sane. I'm getting distracted now because I can see my mouth moving at the bottom of the screen. I have to move it again. I'm being a little ADHD. I moved it too high so I can see my I can see my face move. Okay. God, no moral man sane could have been guilty of that crime upon the pitiful provocation that I struck in no more reasonable spirit than that in which a stick child may break a plaything. But I had voluntarily stripped myself of all these balancing instincts by which even the worst of us continues to walk with some degree of steadiness among temptations, and in my case, to be tempted, however slightly, was to fall. Instantly, the spirit of hell awoke in me enraged with a transparent, what's that? With a transport of glee, I mauled the unresisting body, tasting delight from every blow, and it was not till weariness had begun to succeed that I was suddenly, in the top fit of my delirium, struck through the heart by a cold thrill of terror. A mist dispersed. I saw my life to be forfeit and fled from the scene of these excesses, at once glorying and trembling. My lust for evil gratified and stimulated my love of life. Screwed to the topmost peg, I ran to the house in Soho, and to make assurance doubly sure, destroyed my papers. Thence I set out through the lamplight streets. I set out through the lamplight streets in the same divided ecstasy of mind, gloating in my crime, light-heartedly devising others in the future, and yet still hastening, hearkening in my wake for the steps of the average avenger. Hyde had a song upon his lips as he compounded the draught, and as he drank it pledged the dead man. The pangs of transformation had not done tearing him before Henry Jekyll, with streaming tears of gratitude and remorse, had fallen upon his knees and lifted his clasped hands to God. The veil of self indulgence was rent from his head to foot. I saw life as a I saw my life as a whole. I followed it up from the days of my childhood when I had walked with my father's hand, and through the self-denying toils of my professional life, I arrive again and again with the same sense of unreality at the damned horrors of the evening. I could have screamed aloud. I sought with tears and prayers to smother down the crowd of hideous images and sounds which my memory swarmed against me, and still between the petitions the ugly face of my iniquity stared into my soul. As the acuteness of the remorse began to die away, it was succeeded by a sense of joy. The problem of my conduct was solved. Hyde was thenceforth impossible. Whether I would or not, I was now confined to the better part of my existence, and oh, how I rejoiced to think of it. With with that willing humility, I embraced anew the restrictions of nature. With the sincere renunciation, I locked the door by which I had often gone and come, and ground the key under my heel. Drink. I think it's too late, buddy. The next day I came, the news that the murder had not been overlooked, that the guilt of Hyde was patent to the world, and that the victim was a man high in public estimation. Same difference. It was not only a crime; it had been a tragic folly. I think I was glad to know it. I think I was glad to have my better impulses thus buttressed and guarded by the terrors of the scaffold. Jekyll was now my city of refuge. Let but Hyde peep out in an instant, and the hands of all men would be raised to take and slay him. I resolved in my future conduct to redeem the past, and I can say with honesty that my resolve was fruitful of some good. You know yourself now earnestly. In the last months of the year, I labored to relieve suffering, for now you know that much was done for others, and that the days passed quietly, almost happily for myself. Nor can I truly say that I wearied of this beneficent, sorry, I added a syllable, an innocent laugh. I think instead that I daily enjoyed it more completely. But I was still cursed with my duality of purpose. That, and as the first edge of my penitence wore off, the lower side of me, so long indulged, so recently chained down, began to growl for license. Not that I dreamed of resuscitating Hyde. The bare idea of that would startle me to frenzy. No. It was in my own person that I was once more tempted to trifle with my conscience, and it was as an ordinary secret sinner that I at last fell before the assault of temptation. There comes an end to all things. The most capacious measures is filled at last, and this brief condescension of my evil finally destroyed the balance of my soul. And yet I was not alarmed. The fall seemed natural, like a return to the old days. Before I had made my discovery, it was a fine, clear January, wet underfoot, where the frost had melted, but cloudless overhead. and the Regent's Park was full of winter chirruping and sweet with the spring odors. I sat in the sun on the bench, the animal within me licking the chops of memory, the spiritual side a little drowsed, promising subsequent penitence, but not yet moved to begin. After all, I reflected, I was like my neighbors, and then I smiled, comparing myself with other men, comparing my active goodwill with the lazy cruelty of their neglect. And at the very moment of the vainglorious thought, a qualm came over me, a horrid nausea, the most deadly shuddering. These passed away and left me faint. And then, as in turn faintness subsided, I began to be aware of a change in my temper, of my thoughts, a greater boldness, a contempt of danger, a solution of bonds of obligation. I looked down, my clothes hung formlessly on my. Oh, sorry. Be quiet, G Force. It. And they update G Force apparently. Uh, hung formlessly on my sunken limbs. The hands that lay on my knees were corded and hairy. It was once more Edward Hyde. A moment before, I had been safe of all men's respect, wealthy, beloved, the cloth on laying for me in the dining room at home, and now I was common quarry of mankind, hunted, houseless, a known murderer, thrall to the gallows. My reason rate wavered, but it did not fail me utterly. I have more than once observed that in my second character my faculties seemed sharpened to a point my spirit more tensely elastic. Thus it came about that where Jekyll perhaps might have succumbed, Hyde rose to the importance of the moment. My drugs were in one of the presses of my cabinet. How was I to reach them? What was the problem that crushing my temples in my hand I set myself to solve? The laboratory door I had closed. If I sought to enter my house, my own servants would consign me to the gallows. I saw I must employ another hand, and thought of Lanyon. How was he to be reached? How persuaded, supporting that I escaped capture in the streets? How was I to make my way into his presence? And how should I, an unknown and displeasing visitor, prevail on the famous physician to rifle and study of his colleague, Dr. Jekyll? Then I remembered that my original character, one part remained to me. I could write my own hand, and once I had conceived that kindling spark, the way I must follow became lighted up from end to end. Thereupon I arranged my clothes as best I could, summoning a passing hansom, drove to a hotel in Portland Street, and the name of which I chanced to remember. At my appearance, which was indeed comical enough, however tragic a fate these garments covered, the driver could not conceal his mirth. I gnashed my teeth upon him with a gust of devilish fury. The smile withered from his face, happily for him, sorry, yet more happily for myself. For in another instant I had certainly dragged him from his perch. At the end, as I entered, I looked about me with so black countenance as made the attendant tremble. Not a look did they exchange in my presence, but you obsequious obsequiously took my orders, led me to a private room, and brought me wherewithal to write. Hyde, in danger of his life, was a creature new to me, shaken with inordinate anger, strung to the pitch of murder, lusting to inflict pain. Yet the creature was astute, mastered in his fury, with a great effort of the will, composed his two important letters, one to Lanyon and and one to Poole, and that he might receive actual evidence of their being posted, sent them out with directions that they should be registered. Thenceforth, he sat all day over the fire in the private room, gnawing his nails. There he dined, sitting alone with his fears. What waiters visibly quailing before his eyes? The waiters, and thence, when the night was fully come, he set forth in the corner of his closed cab, and was driven to and fro about the street of the city. I say, I cannot say I, that child of hell, had nothing human, nothing lived in him but fear and hatred. And when at last thinking the driver had begun to grow suspicious, he discharged the cab and ventured on foot, attired in his misfitting clothes, an object marked out of observation, out for observation, into the midst of the nocturnal passengers. These two base passions raged within him like a tempest. He walked fast, hunted by his fears, chattering to himself, skulking through the less frequently thoroughfares, counting the minutes that still divided him from midnight. Once a woman spoke to him, offering, I think, a box of lights. He smote her in the face and she fled. Dick, drink. When I came to myself at Lanyon's, sorry. When I came to myself at Lanyon's, the horror of my old friend perhaps affected me somewhat. I do not know. It was at last but a drop in the sea to the abhorrence which I looked back upon these hours. A change had come over me. It was no longer the fear of the gallows, it was the horror of being Hyde that racked me. I received Lanyon's condemnation partly in a dream. It was partly in a dream that I came home that I came home to my own house and got into bed. I slept after the prostration of the day with a stringent and profound slumber which not even the nightmares that wrung me could avail to break. I awoke in the morning shaken, weakened, but refreshed. I still hated and feared the thought of the brute that slept within me, and I had not, of course, forgotten the appalling dangers of the day before, but I was once more at home, in my own house, and close to my drugs. The gratitude of my escape shone so strong in my soul that I almost ri- rivaled the brightness of hope. It was stepping leisurely across the court after breakfast, drinking the chill of the air with pleasure, that I was seized again by those indescribable sensations that heralded the change, and I had but the time to gain shelter of my cabinet before I was once again raging and freezing with passions of Hyde. It took on this occasion a double dose to recall me to myself. And alas, 6 hours after, as I sat looking sadly in the fire, the pangs returned. The drug had to be re-administered. In short, From the day forth, it seemed only by the great effort of a gymnastics that only utter the immediate lost my place because I shook my head doing that. Immediate stimulation of the drug, that I was able to wear the countenance of Jekyll. At all hours of the day and night, I would be taken with the premonitory shudder above all. If I slept or even doze for a moment in my chair, it was always as Hyde, and I awakened under the strain of his continually impeding doom, and by the sleeplessness to which I now condemned myself, I, even beyond what I had thought possible to man, I became in my own on my own, a creature eaten up and emptied by fever, languidly weak, both in body and mind, solely occupied by one thought, the horror of my other self. But when I slept, when the virtue of the medicine wore off, I would leap almost without transition, for the pangs of transformation grew daily less marked, into the possession of a fancy brimming with images of terror, soul boiling with causeless hatreds, and a body that seemed not strong enough to contain the raging energies of life. The powers of Hyde seemed to have grown with the sickliness of Jekyll, and certainly the hate and now divided them was equal on each side. With Jekyll, it was a thing of vital instinct. He had now seen the full deformity of that creature that shared with him some phenomena of conscience and was cohere with him to death. The beyond these links community, which in themselves made the most poignant part of his distress. He thought of Hyde, he of all his energy, for all his energy. I don't know how I got the word he there, Hyde, for all his energy of life, as of something not only hellish but ignorant. Oh, inorganic, not ignorant. This was the shocking thing, that the slime of the pit seemed to utter cries and voices, that the amorphous dust gesticulated and sinned. That was what that what was dead, that had no shape, should usurp the offices of life. And this again, that insurgent horror was knit to him closer than a wife, closer than an eye, lay caged in his flesh, where he had in mutter and felt and struggled to be born, and at every hour of a weakness and in the confidence of slumber prevailed against him and deposed him out of life. The hatred of Hyde for Jekyll was of a different order. His terror of the gallows drove him continually to commit temporary, can't say that word because of algorithms, screw you, cider, and return to his subordinate station of a pot instead of person. But he loathed the necessity, he loathed the despondency into which Jekyll was now fallen, and he resented the dislike in which he was himself regarded. Hence the ape-like tricks that he would play me, scrawling in my hand blasphemies of pages of my books, burning the letters and destroying portrait of my father. And indeed, had it not been for his fear of death, he would long ago have ruined himself in order to involve me in that ruin. But His love for life is wonderful. I go further, I would sicken and freeze at the mere thought of him when I recall the abjection and passion of this attachment, and would I know how he fears the powers to cut him off by cider, I find it in my heart to pity him. That was really long, so I need another drink. I was going to leave that open so I don't have to take the lid off every time. Okay. It is useless, and the time awfully fails me to prolong this description. No one has ever suffered such torments. Let that suffice. And yet, even to these habit brought, no, not alleviation, but a certain callousness of soul, a certain acquiescence of despair, and my punishment might have gone on for years, but for the last calamity, which has now fallen, which has finally severed me from my own face and nature, my provisions of the salt, which had never been renewed since the date of my first experiment, began to run low. I sent out to the fresh supply and mixed the drought. Ebullition followed, and the first change of color, not the second. I drank it, and it was without efficiency. You will learn from Poole how I have had London ransacked. It was in vain. I am now. Well, hold up. Hold up. I might have knocked something down. Hold up. Pardon the interruption. Ransacked, it was in vain, and I am now persuaded that my first supply was impure, that it was unknown impurities which lent efficacy to the drought. Oh, I think one of you said so. Oopsie. Yes, oopsie indeed. I was going to the Elgato, and I just knocked over a glass. Luckily, it was empty. About a week has passed. I am now finishing this statement under the influence of the last old powders. This, then, is the last time, short of a miracle, that Henry Jekyll can think his own thoughts or see his own face. Now, how sadly altered. In the glass, nor must I delay too long to bring my writings to an end, for if my narrative has hitherto escaped destruction, it has been by the combination of great prudence and good luck. Should the throes of changes take me, the act of writing Hyde will tear it to pieces. But if some time shall have elapsed after I have laid it by his wonderful selfishness and circumscription of the moment will probably save it once again from the action of his ape-like spite. And indeed, the doom that is closing in on both has already changed and crushed him. Half an hour now, when I shall again and forever re-endue that hatred personality. I know how I shall sit shuddering and weeping in my chair, or continue with the most strained and fear-struck ecstasy of listening to pace up damn it, I was doing so well. To pace up and down this room, my last earthly refuge, and give ear to every sound of menace. Will Hyde die upon the scaffold, or will he find courage to release himself at that moment? God knows I am careless. This, my true hour of death, that And what is follow concerns another than myself. There, here, but here, then as I lay down the pen and proceed to seal my confession, I bring the life of that unhappy Henry Jekyll to an end. But we're done. That's it, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Dr. Jekyll works late at the laboratory where things are not as they seem. Let me get chat back up properly so. OBS, please be my friend. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's get some music up. That was very long. How long was it? I don't know when we started. Actually, I have no idea how long that was. Oh, goodness. Oh. That might have been an hour long. I'm not quite sure, though. Almost better than the Broadway musical. Fucking, there probably is a Broadway musical. Yeah, usually, I mean, it has horror elements, but usually there's more focus on the horror than the mystery and the psychological suspense, of... Oh, how loud is that? Is that too loud? I'm gonna turn it down slightly. But, yeah, that's a little louder than it should be. Okay. On the more psychological suspense aspects of it. Yeah, but it... Oh, God, this is... Oh, wait, let's get the reading down. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's a... God. Let me keep the game up. Okay. What is it? God, it's way before the Shadow was made, and I'm not really an expert on Jungian Shadow. I still need to read Jung, I'll admit. But, it has, like, colors of Jungian Shadow and whatnot like that, of just, like, you know, the inner self and whatnot. Of course, this is more of, like, the instinct, the animal that is within us all. Ooh. 5 has Hachima and Ame. Oh, wait. Let's go to the house. We can get money from fishing, right? We can get money from fishing. You know what I think is going to be quicker? Instead of learning this mechanic, is to go into a match, get like... Fine, I'll fish. Yeah. How do I get money from fishing? It will be a calming thing to do while we talk through this, but talking to fish shop. Maybe I shouldn't be skipping through this. How do I fish? I don't care. I need to exchange my... How do I... Wait. How do I exchange? Oh, go. Sell. No, that's how I sell fish. That's how I exchange. How do I get powder? Now I'm the one in need of powder. I feel like Jekyll already. Fishing so you can start immediately. What do you think? I'll just give you your for free. Anyways, more fish you catch the... Oh, do I already have... I already have one. Yeah, I did. Yeah, okay. I already have one. I was being stupid. Oh. Oh shit, it's a directional game. Oh shit, it's a directional game. I thought it... Oh, I completely misremember this minigame. Hold up. What? What? Wait. Oh my god, it's the directionals. It's the WASD directionals. Oh my god. Okay. We got a salmon. Ooh. What is that? A bluefin tuna? Okay. How much will this get it? We only need like 20. Oh. How did chat, we only had like 900, we only had 977, right? Am I going insane? I guess we got what we needed for fishing and we can buy Hachima now. Okay. But I really liked the end because it's because I thought it was just gonna be a mystery story with how everything was setting up, but seeing that it actually had a deeper psychological look at, you know, the character and how it's about how well one becomes a slave to their own desires. Character gotcha. Oh, we need to buy the Hachima skin though. We already have Hachima. We need to buy the skin. Nope. Because we have already spent... There it is. I was just looking for the number. We've already spent 75,000 trying to roll for her. So I think we've earned just buying her. If... Yeah, I think once you spend that much, I can just... And now we have Hachima. After 3 streams. And so many runs. We finally have Hachima. Hachima! Oh god. But I really did like that ending. It was a little abrupt at the end. You don't get to see the reaction of I thought it was gonna be dry as hell. I mean, you don't get to see the reaction of Utterson, but it's not important. I thought it was gonna just be like really, really dry, but it is written in a way where like it was very easy to put in like the passion and like the lamentations in it, because it's very clearly communicated. Very well done in that regard, or at least I thought it was. Ooh. Let's go on the first stage. I don't think we're ready for that. What of the first 3 stages would you want me to do? While we do one last round, this interminably late at night. Yeah, we're gonna have another 4-hour damn stream. Ugh. Ooh. Oh. I'm actually gonna get... Well, I was gonna read Paradise Lost, but then I realized that's like a full novel length, so we're probably gonna read some excerpts from like Christmas stories around Christmas. That'll either be the week before or the week of. And then I hate that delay for the processing on Streamlabs, but then I'm gonna have to think about it. I'm probably gonna have to find another novella. Or maybe we're gonna do some short stories. Ooh, you are right on that. I haven't read Most Dangerous Game in fucking forever. It's good. The suspense, ooh, that's actually a really good one. I'm gonna go put that on the list. Did it? Okay. That's like, God, I wanna, it's under copyright, but I'm probably still gonna read it. I want to read that like a Harrison Bergeron or whatever it's called. I can never remember what it's called because it has a... I can't remember names, and the guys are like, I'm gonna name it after my character as like a really weird name. But the Bergeron short story, which is just, you know, like this world where everyone's equal and, you know, like exceptionalism is like destroyed or whatever. And people are like, no, and like half of people are like, he was like satirizing because like he was satirizing you, and people are like, no, he was satirizing you. It's like he was satirizing somebody. We know that much. And I'd love to read Animal Farm because that's a novella, but that's also under copyright. The Bergeron I think I could get away with because I think I can get away with short stories, but I don't think I can get away with. I don't think I can get away with. I don't think I can go. Ironically, I think I'd be censored. Ooh. You might still try it. But I was actually earlier trying to remember Christmas stories besides A Christmas Carol because like, for some reason I can't really think of other Christmas stories. Ooh. But I wanted to do at least some excerpts from The Christmas Carol. Because there's plenty of good parts in A Christmas Carol. I don't know how long Christmas Carol is now that I think about it. I believe it's a full novel, right? It's not a novella. It would be nice to like read some of the Christmas Carol, read excerpts from it, and then do the movie, and then like watch the movie on a watch along. I think that would be nice. Muppets Christmas Carol, of course, because I'm so terrible with the names, but the actor for Scrooge, Alfred for Batman. My brain just malfunctioned. Normally I'm good with his name at least, but I definitely he does a stellar performance. Ooh. God, he performs better with those puppets than a lot of actors do with like actual people. He's remarkable. God, he does not break for a moment. Ooh. I definitely think that would be fun to do. But maybe some short stories would be a better idea, to go into some short stories than jumping into another novella. Oh, Michael Caine, thank you. I knew it was Michael, but then like I was like Michael, and then like my brain half remembered Caine and couldn't finish it, and then I was like, wait, what if his last name was Michael? And then my brain started doing that thing where it's just like it goes into a downward spiral of just like I don't know anything. I think what I was like, I thought like Michael Crane, and then I was like, it's not Michael Crane. Is his first name even Michael? It's definitely Michael, but like, is that his first name or last name? Is that whole thing? Oh god. I hate when that happens. Ooh. Fantastic actor though. Ooh. You hear it? Spider. Spider. I definitely got into flow at some parts in that, which made me happy. Ooh, good. I don't know why. If a character is going demented, my reading comprehension goes up. Or at least my flow goes up. I don't know if that's a good or bad sign about me. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah, but at first I thought the story was just gonna be like an allegory for doing drugs. With like how things were kind of going with it, and like you could still see it. It definitely has elements of that, but it's definitely more to it. Oh yeah, I love sci-fi. That's why when I used to write, like my sci-fis were always way more fleshed out than my fantasies. For some reason, like fantasy stories hold my attention, don't get me wrong, but like overall fantasy doesn't hold my attention as much as sci-fi does. Ooh. I don't know why. I cannot tell you for the life of me, but I do love a good sci-fi. Even though a lot of sci-fi are made by edgy boomers. A lot of famous sci-fi from the 70s I'm referring to. You know, where they just be like, and then the characters started doing it. And it's just like, why are they doing it right now? Like, they're on this like ring planet, and like they're like trying to like discover and fight for their survival, and then they just go into a bush, this like 80-year-old dude and like 20-year-old girl, and just do it. Just, why did you write that? Just like, I feel like, I don't know, like if I like listen, I feel like I would be more concerned with just being like, holy crap, we're kind of stranded on a planet right now, but maybe I'm the weird one. Asimov outside has a lot of good stories. I'm gonna try to aim for like public domain, but at the same time I think short stories I can be a little more liberal with. Ooh. Ooh. I say that, but no, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is a novella, isn't it? Thing is, I've actually no, I've never read it. I've only listened to the. I just realized I've only listened to the radio play and the audio book by Ellison. Actually, not Ellison, whatever. I'm probably still getting his name wrong. By the writer, he does the audio book, and he is also the voice of Am in both the audio play and in the. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's the voice of Am in the audio play. He's definitely the voice of Am in the video game. Ooh. And my God, when he reads as Am, when he reads in general, you can tell he's had some bitter nights in his life. He has been very angry at parts in his life. 'Cause that performance he pulls off is channeled through life experience. Then again, this is the same guy who said that if a fan ever came up to him and said like, "Oh, I really love your work, can I have a signature?" He'd tell them to piss off. I don't want you to like my work, I want my work to challenge you. I want you to feel uncomfortable for my work. And normally I'd be like, you sound like a pretentious a-hole. But like how he says it, it sounds so spiteful, it turns back around, and I'm just like, I kind of respect that, actually. Normally, if somebody said that, I'd be like, you sound like the biggest prick imaginable, and he does sound like a big prick saying it, but he sounds genuinely so spiteful when he's saying it. I'm just like, I gotta respect that. Like, you're generally going like, if my work made you happy, I did something wrong, and I'm pissed about it. I'm just like, wow. He'd hate me because I love I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. I thought it had a happy ending. And it's like, how do you think that has a happy ending? Well, everyone's dead. And Am can't do anything with his existence. Like, Am is just gonna wallow in his meaningless existence again, but the main character's gonna be tortured for all eternity. You know, somebody had to be the sacrifice. For me, it's a happy ending. Which I think speaks more of my psychological state. Ooh. Listen, when the book was written, they didn't have the game with the true happy ending. In my defense, where they go to the moon and unfreeze all the humans to repopulate the Earth. That wasn't an option in the book, bro. How was I to know? How was I to know the book has the bad ending? If I thought I could get away with it, I probably would do. I have no mouth and I must scream though. I have like half in my mind the idea of like a short story that I had to read in school that I liked. I can't remember what it was. You have to read so many. Ooh. I do want to do, I still actually have debut. I remember I said I wanted to do Shakespeare. I still want to do Shakespeare, but I have no idea where I'm going to find other people, like, to do an actual, like, VTuber play, because I still think that would be funny, at least, at the very least, to do a VTuber play of Shakespeare. God, there's so many crazy people in Shakespeare. People go crazy in Shakespeare all the time. I love it. Shakespeare is so drama, so insane. It's wonderful. Ooh. Shakespeare knew how to write, like, to both, like, you know, the aristocrats of his time and to also the common man, because the common man was making the most of his audience, you know? Sure, the aristocrats, you know, were paying the bills, making the theaters for him and whatnot, but, like, you know, it was the peasants who got him that far to begin with. His stories were first for the peasants, you know, before he had the big-ass theater and whatnot. He was just, you know, with his troupe, you know, having the performances go. You know, it was the peasants that got him there, and he remembered that. He kept his stories spicy and salacious for those peasants. Good on you, Shakespeare. You did not forget your base. A lot of people, when they get big, they forget their base. Shakespeare's like, what would my base like? They want some crazy ass mother truckers doing some stupid stuff. It's like, yeah. Some ambitious men getting too big for their britches, yeah. People trying to fight against fate and feeding into it. Make a Roman story. Make it about Julius Caesar. Perfect. I get to play into the ancient tropes as well? Excellent. I have no use for that. I have no use for this one either. All this does is make my stuff prettier, isn't it? Yeah, it gives me a rainbow trail. Thing is, the problem with talking about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is we talked about it throughout, so it's kind of like because we talk about it chapter by chapter. Ooh. It feels like talking about it all at once feels a little weird. Oh my god. Hey, stop. Okay, so let's actually reflect upon Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Earlier that one guy said some things about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and I don't know where the hell that came from, because I think they took the line where it said, like, Hyde, you know, accosted the child, and took it to mean something completely different. It's like, no, they're just referencing the beginning of the book, where he literally was walking on a street and just stomped over a child, like a child bumped into him and he walked over him. I think that is all that's being referenced. Like, he's still a bad person, you know? He shows no concern for children. Like, that's the testament. Ooh. There's not really any evidence in the story, because you can't just, like, have one point. You need to have reoccurring points to, like, point out, like, themes or symbolism. And there's no real reoccurring point for that. It really seems to be a story more about it literally is a story just about the duality of man. About man's lesser, more voracious and sinful half. And how when you give up to it, you may think that you can break free from it, but over time you just feed more and more into it until eventually that becomes you. You know, because it is a part of you. Ooh. Yeah. It's the dangers of excess, of not having the capacity and responsibility to withhold, you know, your inner darker self. And also not having it in balance. Because by running away wholly from Hyde, all that left was for Hyde to kind of like almost metastasize further and further as his own personality. By separating the identities of Hyde and Jekyll, all it did was further, well, literally the division of the characters. He wasn't embracing himself as a whole, he was only embracing himself as a part, so at any given moment, he could only be a part of himself. But I like it. I like that story a lot. It's pretty sweet. It's a short story, but had plenty to say in that short time. I did not mean to do that, but that's fine. I don't think I'm going to be able to remember that short story, sadly. Coexistence. Coexistence, because that's what you need to strive for with your inner demons. You know, you cannot... You cannot live without acknowledgement of yourself. Lest you fall to the temptations. Lest you become what you hate the most about yourself. You have to know, you have to be self-aware. That's a life lesson in general. You always have to be self-aware of yourself, your limitations, and always be self-critical, which can feel taxing, can feel terrible, can feel annoying, to look back at what you did constantly and think, what did I do? What could have been done better? And a lot of times it can feel crushing, especially if you think you've done something wrong, you know, to look back and truly reflect on what you think you've done wrong and how to do better. Not do better by simply, you know, being actively charitable, but by in your everyday actions being a better person, because that's all Jekyll was doing. He was doing charity not out of the kindness of his heart, not out of the purity of his soul, but out of some deep-seated guilt. And that guilt overtook him eventually to eventually just always be Hyde. Oh, at least to an extent. You don't have to be self-aware. You can blissfully ignorant and your flaws and blame everyone else and your problems. Well, we try not to be George Costanza around here. Oh god. Ooh. George Costanza really is the like embodiment of Hyde in some ways. Like there was never a Jekyll to his Hyde. He was born out of the womb as Hyde. He's just like, I'm just gonna manipulate everyone around me. Life's not fair, it's not right. I mean, of course, I'm like, you know, he didn't have the excesses of Hyde, but you know what I mean. Ooh. See here, Tears, Uber. Oh wait, yeah, let's get Uber sheep. Ooh. But in your blissful ignorance, though, people who do that, whether they full on embrace unintentionally their darker aspects, or they just simply don't acknowledge their darker aspects, it's either way, it's pretty bad. Because, I mean, worst case scenario, you become, you know, just a manipulative a-hole, like George Costanza for comedic effect. You become a bad person, or best case scenario, you kind of just do bad things and you never learn about it, and you're just like, well, they keep doing them, and you're kind of just a prick to people. Not the worst thing in the world, but still kind of like, you know, nobody wants to hang out with you. You're kind of a douche. You're kind of a douche canoe. Ooh. Oh, by the way, I have to actually make a correction about something. I mentioned earlier in the stream, loading. Nuxtaku is apparently Israeli, and I assume, by extension, English is his second language. So me saying like I find that his voice is very unnatural and his tone is artificial and doesn't seem organic. I think that's just because he's ESL. I'd like to apologize for that. The fact that he talks like a used car salesman, a 2010s VTuber. It's probably because he learned how, because it wouldn't surprise me if he like refined his English speaking from 2010 VTubers. Not VTubers, sorry, YouTubers, not VTubers. VTubers existed in the 2010s, but YouTubers, sorry. Gunner, it's not about you. He's gonna get me killed. Okay. Israeli, he might as well be English first language person. I don't know. I don't know if like Israeli's first language is Yiddish or not. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to give him benefit of the doubt. Gunner. I don't know, for fuck's sake, maybe he's just autistic. I don't know. I genuinely don't. But the thing is, like, he has a weird tone to his voice that is either him doing a presentation voice, which is stilted. It's either stilted because he's doing a presentation voice, or because he's speaking past his accent. That is also a possibility. That the reason he talks the way he does could be because of accent. To be fair, you know, he might not speak Yiddish, but he could have a strong Yiddish accent still. Ooh. It could actually be accent-based and not language-based. Hebrew is the official language, but I am pretty sure that around it, yeah. Yeah, they do typically speak English, but it could be accent-based. I'm trying to say that I'm sorry for insinuating disingenuousness in his voice. Let's just fucking leave it at that. Ooh. Oh god. But I am happy that it seems that he is, through his experiences, learning through all of this. The man, oh god, he got censored, damn it. The man has come his own undertake. Damn it. The man has his own become. That is the only thing that can fit there. Become his own Undertale persona. Of course, he's autistic. Well, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, you could have just said he became a VTuber. To be fair, you could have just said he's a VTuber. It's less words. He's a VTuber. Of course he's autistic. Like nine times out of 10, they're autistic. I'm borderline. Am I autistic? Am I not? I don't know. Depends on the day. Am I Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde? Depends on the day. But goddamn, the saplings are so strong, chat. They need that strength now. They need that strength right now, chat. Oh god, I will freely admit, Fauna was one of the EN talents that I had the least interest in. That's not because I don't think she's any good, it's just because I don't like that tone I don't really like, it's gonna sound mean, I don't like her presentation, so I'm just like, I don't, it's just off-putting to me. Ooh. Oh god, which might sound weird because I always say like, I like a relaxing VTuber, I like a chill VTuber. I don't know, something about like how her presentation goes, I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe it's probably just me is the problem. It is me is the problem. There's no problem with her. It's one of those things where like when you listen to somebody, you're just like, I don't dig this, and there's nothing wrong with you. It's completely me. It's not you, it's me, as George Costanza would say. We all have a little bit of George Costanza in us. California. Clarification, autism, endearing, not autism. not autistic, derogatory. Gunner! Why? Why do you demand so much attention whenever I'm playing Hololive? It's specifically Hololive. You lose my shit. You're like, you're focusing on anime girls instead of me. I'm cuter than them. Why don't you love me? Stop it. I love you, Gunner. Okay? We went on a walk today, and you were cold, so when we got home, I put a blanket over you, and you were nice and cozy, and you were grateful. And I love you, Gunner, but for the love of God. Gunner. Also, it's night. You should be asleep. When I was never a big fan of I was never a big Fauna fan. I know she did a lot of ASMR and hate ASMR. I used to be fine with ASMR, and then one day, I think I've talked about this all like within the last 2 weeks, but I'll say it again. For some reason, one day, it just snapped in my brain where I was like, this is like, you're like really, like this is pretty much somebody like right next to me and whispering in my ear, and I'm like, I don't know you like that. I don't know what the hell, like I don't know why that snapped in my brain, but since then, if it's anyone like talking in ASMR, if it's just like, you know, like technically like pitter patter of water is technically ASMR, or you know, somebody like, you know, filing something is technically ASMR. Don't care about that. If somebody's whispering in my ear, fucking go away. I don't like, get away from me. So it is probably down to that for Fauna for me as well, which again is a me issue, not her. I have intimacy problems. Can relate to Opus, not that I hate ASMR, but I think yeah. I was completely fine with it, and just one day it just snapped in my brain, and I was like, I don't like you being that close to me. Ooh. Nothing happened too. It really was just one day I just was like, no. Oh wait. Stop. Strengthen. Ooh. Small Ame, your time has come. We are sorry. It can be fetishistic. Ooh. I know it can be fetishistic. Because the thing is, like, I can't. I mean, it's a good thing that I can't really be like, oh hey, I can't really cite exact examples because I don't know them, but like, I know I've heard of examples, which makes me happy. I am pure. Anyway, but yeah, there's like GFE ASMR, right? I say right, like, it's a foregone conclusion because there's GFE anything. There's GFE Gamer Girls, there's GFE, of course there's GFE ASMR, but like... Yeah, cause, yeah. Yeah. Oh no, this is weird. So, I think it's fetishistic, and I believe that stuff has to become way too public in recent years. Like people keep. Oh, when you said dog and fetishistic, I thought you were gonna start talking about like the dog play shit, and it's like, yes, people need to know that like you have a private life where your private matters. There we go. We have achieved true Hato. We have achieved peak Hato. Though we have struggled, we have, I think I was blocking the achievement. You could not see the achievement. Okay, well, let's go look at the achievement. This mother. He's like, you won't give me attention? Then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna be back here squeaking my toy. So it's not loud enough for it to come through the mic, except when I'm talking. Little bastard. Okay. Achievements. Let's get down to it. Well, I can show this some other way, but an achievement popped up, I could have sworn. Character specific. There it is. We have achieved true Hato. Reach Gachikyo fandom level for Ari Hato. We have achieved peak chat. We have found balance between our virtues and our depravities. We have become the peak of VTubing. Hachama. God damn, I wish I fucking understood Japanese. You know, Japanese is like down on the list of languages I want to learn, but fucking Hachima is so insane. I'm just like, God, I need more of this. I need more of this. But we are literally at the same time we were last stream. We're at, when I looked at it to end stream, we are at 3:44. That's not a coincidence. I think that's a sign from something that we have reached the end of our broadcasting hours. We have achieved the peak synchronicity between our insanity of this stream and the insanity of the last stream. No, it should be sanity of the last stream. I don't know. We have not achieved balance at all, actually, but we have achieved synchronicity. That's good enough for me. But I think this is a good place to call it. Mostly because I have to go to the bathroom. I just realized I've been sitting here for like 4 hours drinking a lot of water. But I will look for somewhere to redirect you. I don't think I have anyone on Twitch. It doesn't look like I have anyone on Twitch. So I'm gonna look for a place to redirect you. If you're interested, you can stay. If you're not, this is just gonna be for the VOD watchers. Let me go to subscriptions. They aren't streaming. Why do you lie to me? Tomoe Umari isn't streaming. I'm gonna send you to SS Isa. Okay. Fuck you. Don't tell her I sent you, okay? Just watch this natural Miss Hyde in person and have a great day and a wonderful life. This is me, Merrick Vespa, signing off to you. Let's get up that American anthem. It's been great. I've been very happy to read this. I'm gonna timestamp this pretty much not as soon as it's done. I need to go to the bathroom, but we're done. We'll figure out our next thing. It's probably gonna be a short story, probably gonna be some excerpts. So, like ideas. Oh god, the game! Sorry about that. You kind of had shit music there for a minute.